Hello everyone, my name is Rain. I'm not a rich woman mistreated by my mother-in-law, but I was mistreated by my own parents. This story is about my useless husband, Charlie, and how my parents supported him more than they ever supported me. I've never told anyone this story before because I don't have many people in my life. I met Charlie about 6 years ago on a dating website. He had a decent job and seemed like a good guy. Charlie wasn't some knight in shining armor, but he was definitely a good boyfriend. We had some great years together at the start of our relationship. We dated for 4 years and then got married. He was a great partner to me and quickly became my parents' favorite. However, I did feel some resentment towards him because of that. At every family dinner, my parents would say things like, "We're so happy to have you in our family, Charlie. Rain finally made a good choice in life by bringing you to us. God really answered our prayers and gave us what we wanted. You know, we'd always wanted a son but never had one. You're such a nice young man and perfect for our family. Yes, Rain is okay and all, but she can't be our son. She doesn't understand that. Rain has always been a little selfish and greedy for attention. We're glad you stuck with her despite her flaws." They were right. I was selfish and greedy for affection. My parents always wanted a son and couldn't have one. They even tried for a bit after having me, but it wasn't possible. It made them resent me throughout my life. When I was young, I couldn't understand why they neglected me and favored other children if they were boys. They always complained about me and how they missed out on having a son. As I grew up, I was determined to prove to them that I could be just as good as a son. I got great grades, went to college, and got a good job. I even sent them monthly allowances so they wouldn't have to work anymore. Still, they never appreciated me. Charlie did nothing for them, but they loved him more than me. I tried to push aside my resentment because I was happy that my parents finally approved of one choice I made. Charlie also enjoyed the attention he got from my parents. His own parents had disowned him, and I didn't know why. None of his relatives even came to our wedding. Slowly, I started to understand why almost everyone in his life cut him off. He was a thief. I wish I were exaggerating, but I'm not. At first, it started off as him being lazy. One day, he suddenly took a lower-paying job because he didn't want to work long hours anymore. He said it was to avoid getting depressed, so I decided to switch jobs at my company and took a lower position with a pay cut to help out. "Why would you do that, Charlie? This is a serious pay cut and it will affect our life," I said. "Why would it affect us? You earn well enough to support our lifestyle. Just put more money into our joint account. That would solve everything," he replied. "You can't just assume that, Charlie. Things like this require a family discussion. If you want more money from me, you should have discussed it with me first. Do you have no regard for my mental health? Why would I even discuss this with you? We're married, so there's no my money or your money anymore. Stop being so dramatic," Charlie said. I was a bit annoyed by how casually Charlie was acting about the whole thing, and the fact that he refused to separate our finances worried me. But I still supported him because I loved him. That was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Guys, this man spent all his money and time on video games. Yes, whatever little money he earned was spent on them. He put $500 into our joint account, but later he took out even more for himself. Charlie and I had countless arguments about this in the past. He was draining my savings and taking almost all of my paychecks. Sometimes he didn't even contribute anything to the household. He didn't help with chores either. All he did was work, play games, and spend money on things he wanted. I was getting sick and tired of being financially taken advantage of. No amount of talking ever helped. Instead, he always turned things around on me and yelled at me. My parents also took his side. They said, "Rain, why is your husband calling us, saying that you are financially abusing him? This is very unlike you, Rain. You better explain yourself." "Dad, I'm not financially abusing him. In fact, it's the opposite. He's been draining my savings and making me pay for 90% of our household expenses." "So what, Rain? People need to spend money on their family after marriage. It's shameful how you don't let Charlie use your credit card. You're punishing him for not having a fancy job like you. How did you become so greedy?" "Mom, he's misused my credit cards before. That's why I don't let him use them anymore. I can't risk our future knowing he has no control over his spending." But my parents still took Charlie's side. That made me even angrier. I knew he was using my parents to make me give him all my money. Little by little, all the love I had for him faded away. But one day, things reached a breaking point. I discovered that he had taken $20,000 from my personal account without permission. What did he spend it on? A new gaming PC and accessories. I was furious. I tried to get the charges canceled, but it didn't work. So, as a last resort, I decided to report it to the police. Charlie was furious when they came to arrest him that day. I was determined that my marriage had to end. I needed to get out. What I didn't realize was that I would lose more than just Charlie because of my decision. I texted my parents to tell them what happened. I didn't want them to hear about it from someone else, so I told them that night. They saw the messages but didn't reply. I was a little worried about their silence, but I was too exhausted to think about it, so I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and saw a text from Charlie. He said, "Hey wife, I'm already out of jail. Are you surprised? Well, I am too. I never thought your parents would be the ones to bail me out." "What? My parents bailed you out? That's impossible. They would never do that to me." "You're wrong, Rain. One call from me, and your parents were eager to help me out. They even cursed you out while they were at the police station. I must say, they're very disappointed in you." Hearing those words made my stomach turn. I didn't want to believe that my parents would do something like this. I rushed over to their house to get answers. I had no idea why they had bailed Charlie out. I had tried to keep them as uninvolved as possible. But they still managed to talk to Charlie and pay for his bail. I was getting really angry thinking about what they did. I walked into my parents' house and said, "Mom, Dad, please don't tell me you bailed Charlie out. Don't tell me what I heard is true. I can't believe you could do something like this, Rain. We raised you better than that. You're just punishing Charlie because he didn't listen to you. After marriage, he has every right to use your credit card. All your money is his money too. He did nothing wrong," my dad said. "Dad, he stole from me. He took $20,000 from my accounts, and this was after he had already emptied our joint account in the past. When does it stop?" I replied. "We know you've been financially controlling towards him, Rain. It's not right to shame your own husband for spending money. You were a bad wife to him. Charlie told us how you refused to put more money into your joint account. Spouses shouldn't hide their money from each other." "Charlie doesn't hide anything from you," Dad insisted. "Charlie didn't hide money because he had nothing to hide. After every paycheck, he had no money left. He barely contributed anything to our household expenses." "Oh my God, are you shaming a man for earning less than you? What can poor Charlie do when he earns so little?" "I can't believe what a greedy and selfish brat you've become," Dad said angrily. No matter what I said, my parents still supported Charlie. I should have seen this coming. They'd always preferred him because he was a man. Charlie filled that gap in their hearts from not having a son. Having a good and successful daughter wasn't enough for them. Still, I thought they wouldn't choose any man over their own child. I was wrong. My parents were completely hopeless. Their words hurt me when they blamed me. I was disappointed and sad, but I wasn't ready for what they said next. "Rain, you have truly turned into a horrible woman. We're ashamed of what you've become. We can't be associated with such a selfish daughter like you, so your father and I have made some decisions. We've invited Charlie over to our house. He'll be staying with us until you come to your senses. We'll pay for his lawyer fees and everything. You'd better drop the case and take him back, or we'll disown you. You're going to house the man who stole from me and financially abused me for years? Are you really going to disown me over this? You can't be serious." "We are dead serious, Rain. It's time we taught you a lesson. Just because you're financially independent doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Charlie has been such a good son-in-law to us. It's time we stand up for him and help him out in this tough time. He's already like a son to us, so we'll let him stay with us until you realize your mistake." Nothing could have prepared me for this. I thought my parents were biased towards my husband, but I never thought they would disown me for him. They constantly praised my abusive, freeloading husband for his wrong decisions and belittled me for being responsible. What they said that day completely shattered my heart. All the love I had for them was gone. I realized that all my life I had been loving the wrong people, but I wasn't going to let them take advantage of me anymore, so I said, "Fine then, have him in this house. But if he comes to live here, I will stop sending you money. I won't pay you a cent, so you can go and spend it on my loser husband. We expected that from you, Rain. We already know what a selfish person you are. You don't have to send us money. We can take care of ourselves. It's just like you to threaten us with money. Listen to me, Rain, you can't use your money to control us. The money you earn has made you proud. We'll show you what a mistake you've made by using your money to manipulate people. There's no reason for us to stay in contact with you. Don't come to this house or talk to us again. I looked at my mother, and she agreed with my dad. Both of them told me to go away and never show my face again. They'd even said I shouldn't call or text them. I took their words to heart and left the house. I didn't cry in front of them, but I broke down in my car. I cried so much that I had to pull over to calm myself. I spent over 30 years of my life trying to win my parents' love, and yet they threw me away like trash. They treated me like trash and called me trash. I felt like my world had ended that day. I went home and cried myself to sleep. The next day, Charlie called me just to brag about how he'd stolen my parents. He was already settled into my old room and called to tell me how much my parents hated me and loved him more. He said, "Guess what, Rain? I'm in your precious room right now. Your parents even came to pick me up. They really hate you right now." I replied, "Charlie, you're being rewarded for your crimes. It must be fun having loving parents who aren't even your own." He said, "It was so easy to manipulate them, Rain. I didn't even have to try. You ran after them like a dog, but they never loved you like this. Honestly, I think they hated you all along." Poor little Rain worked so hard to make her parents love her and still failed miserably. I couldn't take it anymore, so I hung up while he laughed at my misery. That horrible man even had the nerve to send me a picture of him lying on my old bed. I wanted to cry, but instead, I pulled myself together and made a plan. I was going to follow through with my promise of not sending my parents any more money. I knew the absence of my allowance would hurt them, plus Charlie would eventually show his true colors, so I stopped sending them money and waited. As I predicted, just 2 days after the month ended, my parents started pestering me for money. They broke their own no-contact order and began asking, and demanding, that I send them money. They said, "Why haven't you sent us money yet? Do you know how many bills we have?" I replied, "What money, Dad? I already told you I won't send you money anymore. Funny to see you contact me after you proudly told me to get out of your life." Rain, don't be rude. Things were said when we were all angry. It's been weeks since that incident. It's time to move on. Families don't hold grudges. So now that you need money, you suddenly remember I'm family? Yesterday, Charlie seemed more like family to you. Why don't you ask him for money? That won't be possible, Rain. He doesn't pay for anything. We paid his bail, his phone bill, and his food. He's still asking us for money. Well, use your savings to feed him then. I'm sure you've saved some from the checks I used to give you. We already dipped into our savings when we paid for Charlie's bail. We have very little left. We need you to send us money, Rain. It's not fair for you to hold the past over us. No, this is completely fair, Mom and Dad. For years you've treated me unfairly because I'm a girl. You chose Charlie and loved him only because he's a man. I tried so hard to be a good daughter, to win your affection, but you two just showed me how wrong I was. I should have done this a long time ago. I'm cutting you off. I don't need people like you in my life anymore. Years of hurt and betrayal poured out of me. I absolutely unloaded on them, telling them exactly how angry I was. My parents were silent while I spoke. When I finished, they started pleading for forgiveness because they really needed my help. I hung up on them without listening any further. I had predicted that my parents would come banging on my door with apologies and pleas. I even expected some entitlement on their part. But my revenge became even sweeter because Charlie did something stupid that made my parents file a police report against him and kick him out. If you want to know why, you need to see this conversation I had with them. One day, they showed up at my doorstep to try and talk to me. I didn't open the door but spoke to them from inside. They said, "Rain, you need to hear us out, dear. We're here to apologize for our mistakes. We never should have let an outsider into our home. You are family, and you should have been our priority. We got caught up in our dream of having a son and didn't realize how bad your husband was. We've already paid dearly for it. Charlie stole our credit cards and drained our savings. We don't even have money for food anymore. Rain, please don't let your parents starve. We need your help. We promise we'll stand by you this time. We've already reported the theft to the police and kicked Charlie out. He'll never step foot in our lives again. I replied, you should have thought about this when you happily chose Charlie over me. You're the only ones responsible for your situation now. I will only send you money for this month, but after that, I'm done. You have a month to figure out what to do. I said that and left them on the porch. I felt a little bad for my parents, but then I remembered how little I meant to them. That was enough to make me angry again. I did send them some money because I couldn't let them starve, but that was the last check I sent them. Just as they said, my parents filed a police report to get the charges reversed on their credit cards. Surprisingly, they sent back the money I'd sent them last time. They kept begging and pleading with me for forgiveness. The begging went on for so long that I started to get used to it. I saw it coming but didn't expect them to be so persistent. However, what they did next was even more unexpected. They actually signed over their house to me as an apology for all the mistakes they made against me. My parents showed up on my porch and left the papers there. I didn't know what to think. Apparently, they also got jobs so that I wouldn't have to spend my money on them anymore. I returned the papers and haven't contacted them yet. As for my husband, well, he's my ex-husband now. Yes, I filed for divorce and got him sent to prison for fraud. With a double case against him, Charlie's chances of avoiding jail were slim. Just as predicted, the judge put him in prison.
I never expected betrayal to smell like lavender. That's what hit me first when I walked into our bedroom that evening. The overwhelming scent of my mother-in-law's signature perfume lingering in a space where it had no business being. My name is Lila, and until I found that note on my pillow, I thought I had everything figured out. Career on track, marriage solid, future bright. It's funny how a single piece of paper can shatter that illusion. The note itself was simple, written in Marjorie's unmistakable cursive. Some wives deserve what's coming to them. M.E. I stood there, holding the paper, while my hands started to shake. The house was quiet except for the distant sound of Ethan in the shower. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you notice things, like how the throw pillows on our bed were slightly misaligned, or how my bedside drawer wasn't fully closed. Hey babe, Ethan called out from the bathroom. Didn't expect you home so early. How was the merger meeting? I quickly folded the note and slipped it into my pocket. It went fine, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Ethan, has your mother been here today? The water shut off. There was a pause, just a beat too long. Mom? No, why would she be? I opened my bedside drawer. My personal planner was slightly out of place, and when I flipped through it, I could see faint fingerprints on pages detailing my upcoming business trips and meetings. Ethan emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, water dripping from his hair. He used to look at me with such warmth. Now, I caught something else in his eyes. Guilt? Concern? You're sure about that? I pressed, watching his face carefully. Because I can smell her perfume in here. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Come on, Lila. You're being paranoid. Mom's probably still upset about us missing Sunday dinner, but she wouldn't just show up here. Really? Like she wouldn't just show up at my office last week to remind me about family obligations. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's just worried about us. About our future. Maybe if you weren't so focused on work. Don't. I cut him off. Don't make this about my job again. My phone buzzed, a text from Naomi. Emergency wine night needed? Just closed a sale near you. I looked at Ethan, still standing there, water creating a small puddle at his feet. The man I married 5 years ago would have been outraged at the idea of his mother going through our things. This version just looked tired. I'm going out, I said, grabbing my purse. And when I get back, we need to talk about boundaries. Lila, wait. He reached for my arm, but I was already moving past him. And change the sheets, I called over my shoulder. They smell like lavender. As I drove to meet Naomi, my mind raced. The note wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war. Marjorie had always made it clear she thought I was wrong for her precious son. Too ambitious. Too independent. Not the traditional wife she'd envisioned. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Victor, my boss. Outstanding work on the merger presentation. Board wants to fast-track the expansion. Need you to lead the new division. Details tomorrow. I smiled despite everything. The promotion I'd been working toward was finally within reach. But as I pulled into the wine bar's parking lot, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to face an impossible choice: my career or my marriage. Naomi was waiting outside, 2 glasses of red already in hand. One look at my face and she said, "Oh, honey, what did the witch do now?" I pulled out the note and handed it to her. "Declared war," I replied. "And I think my husband might be on her side." 3 days after finding the note, I walked into my office to find Victor waiting for me, holding a stack of merger documents. The expression on his face made my stomach drop. "Someone's been talking to our competitors," he said, dropping the papers on my desk. "Details about the merger leaked. The board's furious." I sank into my chair, my mind racing. Only 5 people had access to those documents, and I trusted my team completely. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that we need to move faster. I want you to fly out tomorrow, meet with the Singapore team in person. 2 weeks minimum." My phone buzzed. Ethan. I ignored it. "I'll make it happen," I told Victor. The timing couldn't have been worse, but maybe some distance would help clear my head. When I got home that evening, I found Ethan in the kitchen with Marjorie. They fell silent as soon as I walked in, like teenagers caught plotting something. "Lila, darling." Marjorie's smile never reached her eyes. "I was just telling Ethan about this lovely couples retreat. Perfect timing with your work being so demanding lately." I set my briefcase down harder than necessary. "Actually, I'm flying to Singapore tomorrow. Merger complications." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Ethan's face darkened. "Tomorrow? Were you planning to tell me?" "I just found out myself. It's 2 weeks, maybe 3. Marjorie clicked her tongue. "Oh dear. That's unfortunate timing. Ethan just agreed to let me stay here while my condo gets renovated. But don't worry, I'll take good care of him while you're gone." My head snapped up. "Your condo?" "The one you just spent a fortune renovating last year." "Mold," she said smoothly. "Such a terrible problem in these old buildings." I looked at Ethan, who suddenly seemed very interested in his coffee mug. "And when were you planning to tell me about this arrangement?" I thought. "With you being so busy." He trailed off, avoiding my eyes. "I need to pack." I turned and headed upstairs, my hands shaking as I pulled out my suitcase. A few minutes later, I heard Ethan's footsteps behind me. "You're being unfair," he said. "She's my mother. She needs help." I kept folding clothes, not trusting myself to look at him. Like she needed help last Christmas? And the summer before that? There's always some crisis, Ethan. Always some reason she needs to insert herself into our lives. She's lonely since Dad died. It's been 7 years. I spun around. "And what about that note she left? Are we just not going to talk about that?" "What note?" The genuine confusion in his voice stopped me cold. I pulled out the paper and handed it to him. His face changed as he read it. This isn't Mom's handwriting," he said slowly. I snatched it back, studying it more carefully. He was right. The cursive was similar, but not identical. Then who? My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Enjoying the chaos? There's more where that came from." Someone's playing games," Ethan said, reading over my shoulder. "We should call the police." But something clicked in my mind. The leaked merger documents. The fake note. The sudden appearance of Marjorie. It was too perfect, too coordinated. "I need to make a call," I said, already dialing Naomi's number. "And Ethan? While I'm gone, maybe you should ask your mother about Margaret Evans." His face went pale. Margaret Evans, the woman who'd been CFO at my company before me, who'd mysteriously resigned after a series of personal scandals. The same position I now held. What does Mom have to do with Margaret? I zipped up my suitcase. Ask her. And maybe while you're at it, ask her why she's been having lunch with our biggest competitor's CEO. As I wheeled my suitcase past him, I caught a glimpse of Marjorie watching from the hallway, her face unreadable. But this time, I noticed something I'd missed before, the faint scent of her perfume, exactly like the one in our bedroom days ago. The game was bigger than I'd thought. And I was done playing defense. Singapore was supposed to be my escape, but Marjorie's shadow followed me halfway across the world. I was reviewing merger documents in my hotel room when Naomi's urgent video call came through. "You need to check your joint accounts," she said without preamble. "Now." My hands shook as I pulled up our banking app. The numbers didn't make sense at first. There were dozens of recent transfers I didn't recognize. Large ones. How did you know? I asked, my throat tight. Because I just showed $1 million property to your mother-in-law. She's buying it cash, Lila. Said it's going to be a surprise for Ethan. The room started spinning. I checked the transfer dates. They aligned perfectly with my business trips. Times when I was too busy to notice our accounts being drained. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Should have paid more attention to the home front. I called Ethan 3 times. Straight to voicemail. Finally, I texted, "Where's the money?" His response came hours later. "Mom's helping us invest in our future. Come home and we can talk about it." I laughed until I felt sick. Our future. Right. The next morning, I headed to the Singapore office early, needing to lose myself in work. Instead, I found an email from Margaret Evans waiting in my inbox. "I saw your name in the merger documents. History repeats itself. Call me if you want to know how this ends." I stared at her number for a long time before dialing. She answered on the first ring. "Let me guess," she said. "Marjorie's moved in? How did you?" Because that's how it started with me too. The concerned mother-in-law, worried about her son's workaholic wife. Then the financial help. Then the rumors. My blood ran cold. What rumors? Check your company email. The anonymous tips about insider trading should be arriving any minute now. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a message from Victor. My office. "No. We need to discuss some allegations." I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I got back to my hotel that night, after hours of defending myself to the board, I found an email from our family lawyer. Buried in the attachments was a document with Marjorie's signature, a power of attorney form, dated 3 months ago. Ethan had given her control of our joint assets. I called Naomi again. "I need you to do something for me," I said, my voice steady despite everything. "Find out everything you can about Marjorie's finances from when her husband died. Something's not adding up." "Already on it," she replied. "And Lila? There's something else you should know. I drove by your house today. There's a for sale sign in the yard." I ended the call and opened my laptop. First, I transferred every penny from my personal accounts to a new bank. Then I booked a flight home, not to reconcile, but to fight. My phone buzzed one last time that night. A photo from the unknown number, Marjorie and Ethan at dinner with the CEO of our biggest competitor. The caption read, "Checkmate." But they'd made one crucial mistake. In the background of the photo, partially visible on their table, was a document I recognized, our confidential merger papers. I forwarded the photo to Victor with one line, "Found our leak." Then I started typing an email to our company's legal team. The subject line? Evidence of corporate espionage and financial fraud. Marjorie wanted to play chess? Fine. But she'd forgotten something important. In chess, the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. As I packed my bags for the flight home, I found the original note that had started all this, still tucked in my jacket pocket. "Some wives deserve what's coming to them." I smiled for the first time in days. Yes, we do. Just not in the way Marjorie imagined. The corporate espionage investigation moved fast. By the time my flight landed, Victor had already called an emergency board meeting. What I didn't expect was to find Ethan waiting at the airport. "You're making a huge mistake," he said, falling into step beside me. "Mom was trying to protect us." I kept walking. By stealing our money? By selling company secrets. She was protecting our future. The merger would have meant relocating to New York. She found out before you could blindside me with it. I stopped dead in my tracks. The New York position, my dream job, had been confidential. Only the board knew. "How long?" I asked. "How long have you been helping her spy on my company?" His silence was answer enough. My phone buzzed. "Victor, board meeting in 30. Bring everything you have." "And Lila?" "The New York position is still yours if you want it." At the office, security stopped Ethan at the lobby. I watched him argue with them through the glass doors, looking lost in his expensive suit, the one I'd bought him for our anniversary. The boardroom was packed. Victor stood at the head of the table, looking grim. "Mrs. Everett is already here," he said. For a moment, I thought he meant me. Then I saw Marjorie, sitting calmly among the board members, wearing a triumphant smile. "I hope you don't mind," she said sweetly. I brought some documents of my own to share. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of emails, my emails, discussing confidential merger details, with dates that matched perfectly with the information leaks. These were found on my daughter-in-law's personal laptop, Marjorie announced, along with evidence of substantial private trading activity. The room went quiet. I felt the blood drain from my face as I realized her plan. She hadn't just been gathering information. She'd been planting evidence. "That's impossible," I started, but Victor raised his hand. "There's more," he said. "Mrs. Everett has also brought to our attention some concerning wire transfers, which I can explain. To offshore accounts," he finished. Marjorie's smile widened. "I hate to say it, but when I discovered what Lila was doing, I felt morally obligated to come forward. Family loyalty only goes so far." I almost laughed at the irony. Instead, I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made in Singapore, Marjorie's voice, clear as day, discussing the merger details with our competitor. "Interesting timing," I said, watching her smile fade, "especially since these conversations happened before any of those emails were supposedly sent from my laptop." I laid out my own evidence. Timestamps proving the emails were backdated, bank records showing the real destination of the missing money, and finally, Margaret Evans' sworn statement about Marjorie's previous corporate sabotage. "You're not the only one who knows how to gather evidence," I told her. "The difference is, mine is real." The board erupted in chaos. As security escorted Marjorie out, she hissed, "You'll regret this. Ethan will never choose you over family." "That's where you're wrong," I replied. "You stopped being his only family the day we married. You just couldn't accept that." Later that night, Victor called to formally offer me the New York position. "The board was impressed by how you handled this," he said. "We need someone like you heading up the East Coast division." I looked out my office window. Ethan was still waiting in the parking lot, sitting in his car. 5 years of marriage, and it had come down to this, a choice between the life I'd built and the life he wanted me to live. My phone buzzed one last time. "Another unknown number. You won this round. But ask yourself, what else are you willing to lose?" I deleted the message and picked up my office phone. "Victor, I'll take the job." Sometimes protecting yourself means being willing to lose everything. I learned that lesson the hard way. Now it was time to teach it to someone else. I should have known something was wrong when Naomi called to warn me about the cars parked outside our house. "It looks like a family reunion," she said. "And not the fun kind." I pulled into our driveway to find Ethan's entire family waiting in the living room, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen since our wedding. And there, holding court in my favorite armchair, sat Marjorie. "Darling," she said, rising to greet me. "We've all been so worried." The room felt like a trap closing in. Family photos had been strategically placed around the room, happy moments from before my career took off. Before I changed, as Marjorie loved to say. "What is this?" I asked Ethan, who wouldn't meet my eyes. His Aunt Sarah spoke first. "We're here because we love you both. But this situation, the accusations against Marjorie, the New York position, the divorce papers you requested," Marjorie added softly, producing a manila envelope from beside her chair. My head snapped toward Ethan. "I hadn't requested any divorce papers. I found them in your email drafts," he said quietly. "Were you even going to tell me?" The draft email. The one I'd written in Singapore during my darkest moment, but never sent. Someone had accessed my personal account again. "Show them the email," I said. "Show them the actual sent date." Marjorie's smile tightened. "The details aren't important. What matters is healing this family." "Family?" I laughed. "Like how you tried to frame me for corporate espionage. Or how you drained our accounts." "Lila," Ethan warned, but I was done being careful. "Tell them, Marjorie. Tell them about Margaret Evans. About the competitor meetings. About how success changed you," she interrupted. "About how my son comes home to an empty house while his wife chases promotions." "Don't you dare." "Show them your phone," she continued. "Show them the texts from Victor at all hours. The late-night meetings. The trips." The room grew thick with whispers. I saw the judgment in their eyes, the story already written in their minds. "Ethan needs stability," his uncle declared. "A real family. And what about what I need?" I asked, But my voice was drowned out by a chorus of concerned relatives, all talking about family values and priorities and choices. That's when I saw it, the moving boxes stacked in the hallway, already packed and labeled Ethan's clothes, kitchen, photos. When were you planning to tell me about these? I demanded. Mom found us a place, Ethan said. Just until things settle down. Until you decide what's really important. The room spun. 5 years of marriage, reduced to cardboard boxes and ultimatums. My phone buzzed. Victor again. Need your decision on New York by tomorrow. Team's waiting. I looked around the room, at these people who claimed to love me while systematically dismantling my life. At my husband, who'd rather believe his mother's lies than face the truth. You want me to choose? I said finally. Fine. I choose me. I walked to our bedroom, grabbed my emergency bag, the one I'd packed after Singapore, and headed for the door. Lila, wait, Ethan called. We can work this out. I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? I actually thought I was the one waging a war. But this elaborate ambush? This is what real manipulation looks like. Congratulations, Marjorie. You've taught me more about revenge than I ever wanted to learn. Sometimes love means making hard choices, she replied, but I caught the flash of uncertainty in her eyes. No, I said. Love means not forcing someone to choose. As I drove away, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Running away proves everything I said about you. I smiled and typed back, not running, just getting reinforcements. The war wasn't over. It was just moving to a different battlefield. And this time I'd be ready. 3 weeks into my new life in New York, I came home to find my apartment door unlocked. Inside, Marjorie sat at my kitchen counter. Flipping through a stack of papers I recognized immediately, my private investigator's reports on her past. Fascinating reading, she said, not looking up. Though I'm surprised you missed the most interesting part. I kept my distance, phone ready to call security. How did you get in? Ethan's name is still on the lease application as your emergency contact. Amazing what a concerned mother-in-law story can accomplish. My stomach dropped. I'd been so careful with everything else, but I'd forgotten that one detail. Where is he? I asked. Downstairs, probably still arguing with the doorman. He doesn't know I made a copy of the key. She finally looked up. You've been busy. Digging into my finances, talking to Margaret Evans, even tracking down my late husband's old business partners. You should leave. But we're just getting to the good part. She pulled out a particular document. See, while you were investigating me, I was investigating you. Did you know your father didn't actually abandon your family when you were 12? The room tilted slightly. What are you talking about? He tried to contact you. Multiple times. But your mother. Marjorie smiled. Well, let's just say she had her own ideas about family loyalty. You're lying. She slid an envelope across the counter. Inside were letters, dozens of them in my father's handwriting. All returned unopened. Amazing what you can find in your mother's attic, Marjorie said softly. When she's properly motivated to help protect her daughter from making the same mistakes she did. My hands shook as I read the first letter. It was dated just months after he left, explaining everything, begging to see me. There were birthday cards, graduation congratulations, even a letter from just last year. My mother would never. Help me? You'd be surprised what people will do when they think they're protecting their children from pain. Marjorie stood. You're not so different from her, you know. So convinced you know what's best. So ready to burn everything down in the name of independence. The apartment door opened. Ethan walked in, stopped short when he saw me. You look thin, he said quietly. I couldn't answer. The letters in my hands felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. I'll give you 2 a moment, Marjorie said, gathering her things. At the door, she paused. Oh, and Lila? The board meeting tomorrow? Don't bother going. Victor's retirement was announced this morning. His replacement already has someone else in mind for your position. The door clicked shut behind her. Ethan and I stood in silence, 5 feet and an ocean of betrayal between us. Did you know? I finally asked. About my father's letters? Mom told me last week. He looked exhausted. She also told me about the private investigator. The interviews with Dad's old business partners. Were you ever going to tell me you were building a case against my mother? Were you ever going to tell me you helped her access my work emails? He flinched. I was trying to protect you. The New York position, it would have killed us. No, I said. Your mother killed us. And you helped her bury the body. My phone buzzed. Naomi, turn on the news. Now. The financial headlines scrolled across my TV screen. Market manipulation investigation opens at major trading firm, multiple executives named. My name was on the list. Mom said this might happen, Ethan said softly. That's why I came. To warn you. I stared at the letters from my father, at the news headlines, at my husband's familiar stranger's face. Everything I'd built, everything I'd believed in, was crumbling. Get out, I whispered. Lila. Get out. After he left, I sat in my dark apartment, surrounded by the ruins of my carefully constructed life. My phone buzzed one last time, an unknown number. Now you understand. Some things are thicker than water. Some betrayals run in the family. She was right about one thing. This was about family, just not in the way she thought. The annual Everett Family Foundation Gala wasn't my idea. It was Naomi's. It's perfect, she'd said. Marjorie's pet project, all her social circles in one place. And I have something she doesn't expect. That something was currently sitting in my purse, a USB drive containing 30 years of financial records that had taken weeks to compile. Records that showed exactly where her late husband's fortune had really gone. I spotted Marjorie holding court near the stage, resplendent in designer black, playing the grieving mother to a sympathetic audience. Ethan stood beside her, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. Ready? Naomi asked, appearing at my elbow. Almost. I checked my phone one last time. The email from my father was still there, sent after I'd finally reached out. Some people mistake control for love. Don't let them win. Marjorie saw me coming. Her smile flickered just slightly. Lila, darling. How brave of you to show up, given everything. I wouldn't miss it, I said. Especially since I'm making the keynote speech. Now the smile vanished completely. I believe there's been a mistake. The board selected me, I finished. Unanimous vote, actually. Something about wanting to hear from the woman who uncovered the biggest financial scandal in the foundation's history. The color drained from her face. Ethan stepped forward. What are you talking about? Show them, Naomi called out to the tech booth. The presentation screen lit up with financial statements, transfer records, and one particularly damning email chain. You see, I addressed the now silent room. While everyone was focused on the supposed market manipulation at my company, they missed the real story. The systematic draining of the foundation's accounts over the past 7 years. All traced back to one person. Marjorie's hand shook as she reached for her wine glass. You have no proof. Actually, I do. Your husband kept records of everything, including your plans to frame him for embezzlement before his convenient heart attack. The glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. That's why you were so desperate to control Ethan, weren't you? I continued. As long as he was foundation chairman, you could keep hiding the money. Until I started asking questions. Mom. Ethan's voice cracked. Is this true? Of course not. She's trying to destroy our family. The way you destroyed Margaret Evans? I pulled out my phone, hit play. Marjorie's voice filled the room. Either resign quietly, or everyone learns about your son's real father. The crowd erupted in whispers. Ethan staggered back like he'd been hit. 7 years, I said quietly. 7 years of manipulation, lies, and theft, all while playing the grieving widow. You don't understand, Marjorie hissed. Everything I did was for family. No. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. Everything you did was for control. Security was already moving through the crowd. But before they reached her, Marjorie straightened her spine, looked me dead in the eye. You think you've won? That this makes you better than me? She laughed bitterly. Look around, dear. You're standing alone. No husband, no family, no. That's where you're wrong. I nodded to the back of the room, where Victor stood with the FBI agents we'd contacted weeks ago. I'm not alone. I just chose my family more carefully than you did. As they led her away, Ethan caught my arm. I should have seen it. Should have believed you. Yes, I said. You should have. Can we? No. I gently removed his hand. Some things can't be fixed. but they can be learned from. My phone buzzed one last time, an unknown number. But this time, I deleted it without reading. Some messages didn't need a response. Outside, the city lights sparkled like justice finally served. Naomi was waiting with a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "To family," she said, pouring. I smiled, thinking of my father's email. "To choosing our own." 6 months after the gala, I found myself back in our old neighborhood, helping Naomi stage a house for sale. It wasn't just any house. It was Marjorie's. "The irony," Naomi said, arranging flowers in the foyer. "You're literally cleaning up her mess one last time." The place felt smaller than I remembered. Boxes of evidence lined the halls, waiting for the FBI's final sweep. In the living room, family photos still hung crooked on the walls, perfect facades hiding perfect lies. My phone buzzed, a text from my father, "Lunch next week." We were taking small steps, building something new from the ruins of what was lost. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The doorbell rang. Ethan stood on the porch, looking older somehow, more himself. "I thought I'd find you here," he said. "Mom asked to see you." I hadn't visited Marjorie in prison, hadn't responded to her letters. But something in Ethan's voice made me pause. "She's dying," he said quietly. "Cancer." She's known for months, even before. Everything. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. At the prison, Marjorie looked small in her gray uniform, her perfectly coiffed hair now stringy and white. When she saw me, she didn't smile. "I suppose you think this is justice," she said. "I didn't come for justice." "No." She laughed weakly. "Then why are you here?" "To understand." She was quiet for a long moment. "When Ethan's father died, I thought I'd lost everything. Power, status, control. It all slipped away. Then I saw you, building your career, taking my son further from me. I couldn't lose again. So you destroyed everything. I protected what was mine." She coughed. "Or thought I was." Funny how fear makes us mistake possession for love. I thought of my father's words in that email. Some people mistake control for love. "Are you happy?" she asked suddenly. "In your new life?" "I'm free," I replied. "It's not the same thing, but it's better." She nodded slowly. "I never told anyone this, but I was like you once. Ambitious. Independent. Then I let fear change me into this." I stood to leave, but she caught my hand. Her skin felt paper thin. "The night I left that first note," she whispered, "I was going to confess everything. About the foundation, about Ethan's father. I was so tired of the lies. But then I saw how easy it would be to blame you instead. Why tell me this now?" "Because you won the game I didn't even know I was playing." She released my hand. "Don't become me, Lila. Don't let victory turn into vindication." Outside, Ethan waited by his car. "You okay? Are you?" He shrugged. "Getting there. The foundation's recovering. I'm in therapy. Dating someone new." "Good," I said and meant it. "You know," he added, "she kept every article about your successes. Even in prison. I think she admired you in her way." I thought about fear, about control, about the thin line between love and possession, about how revenge can consume you if you let it. Back at Marjorie's house, Naomi was finishing up. "Ready to close this chapter?" she asked. I looked around one last time. The empty rooms held no more power over me. No more secrets. No more fear. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll buy it." Naomi stared at me. "You're joking." "Not to live in," I explained. "To turn into a women's business center. Something good should come from all this." Later that night, standing on my New York balcony, I got one final text from an unknown number. "You were always stronger than me. Use it wisely." I didn't delete this one. Some messages deserve to be remembered, not for the pain they caused, but for the wisdom they eventually taught. The city lights sparkled below, full of possibilities. I learned that family isn't just about blood or marriage. It's about choice. And sometimes, the hardest choice is choosing yourself. My name is Martha, and I never thought I'd be plotting revenge against my own mother-in-law. But here I am, staring at the chaos of my living room, wondering how it all came to this. "Is this how you intend to raise Eli?" Evelyn's voice dripped with disdain as she surveyed the disarray. The words cut deeper than I expected, igniting a fire I hadn't realized was there. I clutched my newborn son closer to my chest, willing myself to stay calm. "Evelyn, I wasn't expecting you today. How nice of you to drop by." I managed, my tone barely concealing my irritation. Evelyn's perfectly manicured nails trailed along the dusty coffee table. "Clearly," she sniffed. "I thought I'd come see how my grandson is faring. Someone needs to ensure he's being properly cared for." The implication stung. I'd been up all night with a colicky baby, and housework was the least of my concerns. "Eli is doing just fine," I said, my voice tight. "We're still adjusting, but dash." "Adjusting?" Evelyn interrupted, her eyebrows arching. "My dear, it's been 2 months. Surely, you should have some semblance of order by now. When Simon was a baby, I had a strict routine in place within days." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to point out that Simon had been a notoriously difficult child, according to his siblings. Instead, I forced a smile. "We're finding our own way, Evelyn. Every baby is different." The front door opened, and Simon walked in, his eyes widening at the scene before him. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Evelyn's demeanor instantly softened. "Simon, darling, I came to check on little Eli. I'm so glad you're home. Perhaps you can talk some sense into Martha about proper child-rearing." Simon's gaze darted between us, his discomfort palpable. "I'm sure Martha's doing a great job, Mom. She's a natural mother." I felt a flicker of gratitude, but it was quickly extinguished by Evelyn's next words. "Natural? Look at this place, Simon. It's a pigsty. And Martha looks like she hasn't slept in days. Is this really the environment you want for your son?" Simon's shoulders slumped. "Mom, we're managing. It's not easy, but dash. Not easy." Evelyn scoffed. "Of course it's not easy. But that's no excuse for neglect." "Neglect?" I couldn't hold back any longer. "How dare you accuse me of neglecting my child? I have been up every 2 hours feeding him, changing him, loving him. Just because the house isn't spotless doesn't mean dash." "Martha," Simon cut in, his voice pleading. "Mom's just trying to help. Maybe we could use some advice." I stared at him, incredulous. "Advice? Simon, your mother just waltzed in here uninvited and started criticizing everything. That's not advice, that's an attack." Evelyn placed a hand on Simon's arm. "You see how she overreacts? This can't be good for the baby. All this tension and chaos." "The only tension and chaos here is what you brought with you," I snapped. Simon ran a hand through his hair, looking torn. "Let's all just calm down. Mom, maybe now isn't the best time for a visit. We appreciate your concern, but dash." "I see," Evelyn said, her voice cold. "Well, if you'd rather muddle through on your own, far be it from me to interfere. But mark my words, Simon. This isn't sustainable. Something will have to change." As she swept out of the house, I caught a glimpse of something in her eyes that sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't just disapproval or concern. It was calculation. Simon sighed heavily as the door closed behind her. "I'm sorry, Martha. You know how she can be." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the conflict etched on his face. In that moment, I realized this was more than just an overbearing mother-in-law. This was the beginning of a war, and I wasn't sure whose side my husband was on. "Simon," I said quietly, "we need to talk about your mother. And about us." Little did I know, that conversation would set in motion a chain of events that would change our lives forever. The days following Evelyn's visit were a blur of sleepless nights and tense silences. Simon and I tiptoed around each other, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy between us. Eli's cries seemed to echo through the house, a constant reminder of the stakes in this unfolding drama. One afternoon, as I folded laundry with Eli napping nearby, Simon's phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at it, my heart sinking when I saw Evelyn's name on the screen. Simon snatched it up, his eyes darting to me guiltily. "It's just Mom," he muttered, retreating to the bedroom. I stood there, a tiny onesie clutched in my hands, feeling more alone than ever. The seed of doubt Evelyn had planted was taking root, growing with each hushed phone call and evasive glance from my husband. Later that night, I confronted Simon. "We need to talk about your mother," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Simon sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Martha, please. Can't we just let it go?" "Let it go?" I echoed, incredulous. "Simon, she came into our home and accused me of neglecting our son. And you just stood there." "What was I supposed to do?" he snapped. "She's my mother, Martha. You can't expect me to choose sides." "I expect you to stand up for your wife and child," I retorted, my anger rising. "Or is that too much to ask?" Simon's face softened. "Of course not. I love you and Eli more than anything. It's just complicated with Mom." I shook my head, fighting back tears. "It shouldn't be complicated, Simon. We're your family now." He reached for me, but I stepped back. "I need some air," I mumbled, grabbing my coat. As I walked through the quiet neighborhood, my mind raced. Was I overreacting? Was Evelyn right about me? The doubts gnawed at me, threatening to overwhelm the fierce love I felt for my son. My phone buzzed, and I saw a message from my friend Clara. "How are you holding up, Mama? Coffee tomorrow?" I texted back a quick affirmative, grateful for the lifeline. Clara had been my rock since Eli was born, offering support without judgment. The next morning, as I nursed Eli, I heard Simon's muffled voice from the study. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept closer, straining to hear. "I know, Mom," Simon was saying, his tone weary. "But Martha's trying her best. We can't just—" There was a pause, and then Simon's voice dropped even lower. "That's not an option. We'll figure it out ourselves." My blood ran cold. What wasn't an option? What were they planning? I retreated to the nursery, my mind whirling. When Simon emerged, I pretended to be absorbed in changing Eli's diaper. "I'm heading out," Simon said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Work stuff. I'll be back for dinner." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As soon as the door closed behind him, I grabbed my phone and texted Clara. "Change of plans. Can you come over? It's urgent." Clara arrived within the hour, her face etched with concern. "Martha, what's going on? You look terrible." I poured out everything: Evelyn's visit, Simon's behavior, and the overheard conversation. Clara listened intently, her expression darkening. "Martha," she said slowly, "I hate to say this, but it sounds like Evelyn might be plotting something. And Simon, he might be caught in the middle." I nodded, the reality of the situation hitting me full force. "What do I do, Clara?" "I can't lose Eli." "I won't." Clara squeezed my hand. "We'll figure this out together. First, we need to find out exactly what Evelyn's up to, and then we fight back." As I looked at my sleeping son, a fierce determination welled up inside me. Evelyn had no idea who she was messing with. I was a mother now, and I would do whatever it took to protect my child. Little did I know, the battle ahead would test every ounce of strength I possessed and reveal sides of myself I never knew existed. The morning sun filtered through the nursery curtains as I rocked Eli, my mind racing with plans and fears. Clara's words echoed in my head. "We need to find out exactly what Evelyn's up to." I kissed Eli's forehead, steeling myself for what I knew I had to do. As soon as Simon left for work, I began my search. I combed through drawers, rifled through files, and scoured every inch of our home office. Just as I was about to give up, my hand brushed against something behind Simon's desk drawer. A letter, hidden away. With trembling fingers, I unfolded it. The elegant script was unmistakably Evelyn's. "My dearest Simon, I hope you've given serious thought to our discussion. Martha's instability and clear inability to care for Eli properly leave us with no choice. I've spoken with my lawyer, and he assures me we have a strong case for custody. With your support, we can ensure Eli has the upbringing he deserves. Remember, darling, sometimes we must be cruel to be kind. Martha will understand in time that this is best for everyone. All my love, Mother." The world tilted on its axis. I stumbled back, clutching the letter to my chest, while rising in my throat. How could Simon even consider this? How long had they been planning to take my baby away? I don't remember dialing Clara's number, but suddenly her voice was in my ear, calm and steady. Martha? What's wrong? They're trying to take Eli, I choked out. Evelyn and Simon. They want custody. Clara, I can't lose him. Listen to me, Clara said firmly. Pack a bag. Get Eli's things. Come to my place right now. We'll figure this out together, I promise. In a daze, I threw clothes and diapers into a suitcase, gathered Eli's essentials, and fled the house that no longer felt like home. Clara was waiting at her door, arms open. As soon as I crossed the threshold, the tears I'd been holding back burst forth. How could he do this? I sobbed as Clara held me. I thought he loved us. We don't know the whole story yet, Clara soothed, though I could hear the anger simmering beneath her words. But we're going to find out. And we're going to fight this, Martha. You're not alone. As the day wore on, my phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Simon. Where are you? Why aren't you home? We need to talk. I ignored them all, focusing instead on Eli's needs and on formulating a plan with Clara. We need evidence, Clara said, pacing her living room. Proof of Evelyn's manipulation, of her attempts to undermine you. And we need to understand Simon's role in all this. Is he a willing participant, or is he being coerced? I nodded, my shock giving way to determination. I'll reach out to Simon's siblings. They've dealt with Evelyn's control for years. Maybe they can help. As night fell, a knock at the door made us both jump. Clara peered through the peephole, then turned to me, her face grim. It's Simon. My heart raced. I can't face him. Not yet. Clara squeezed my hand. You don't have to. Let me handle this. I retreated to the guest room with Eli, listening intently as Clara opened the door. Where are they? Simon's voice was frantic. Clara, please. I need to explain. Explain what, Simon? Clara's tone was ice. How you're planning to steal your son from his mother?
What? No.
That's not. How did you? Martha found the letter, Simon. From your mother. About taking custody of Eli. There was a long pause, then a heavy sigh. It's not what you think. I never agreed to that. I've been trying to talk Mom out of it, to protect Martha and Eli. And yet you hid it from your wife, Clara retorted. Go home, Simon. Martha needs time. And you need to decide where your loyalties truly lie. As the door closed, I hugged Eli closer, tears silently streaming down my face. In that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same. But as I looked at my son's innocent face, I felt a fierce resolve take hold. Evelyn had no idea who she was up against. I was a mother fighting for her child, and I would move heaven and earth to keep Eli safe. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The next morning, I woke with a renewed sense of purpose. Clara's apartment had become our war room, and we were ready to strategize. As Eli napped peacefully, I steeled myself for the task ahead. We need allies, I told Clara, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Simon's siblings might be our best bet. They've lived with Evelyn's manipulation their whole lives. Clara nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination. Good thinking. Do you have their contact information? I hesitated. Not all of them. But I know Simon's sister, Rachel, is sympathetic. She's always been kind to me, despite Evelyn's influence. With shaking hands, I dialed Rachel's number. To my relief, she answered on the second ring. Martha, is everything okay? Rachel's voice was laced with concern. I took a deep breath. Rachel, I need your help. It's about Evelyn and Simon. Over the next hour, I poured out the whole story, Evelyn's criticisms, Simon's complicity, and the shocking custody letter. Rachel listened in stunned silence. Oh, Martha, she finally breathed. I'm so sorry. I knew Mom was overbearing, but this is beyond anything I imagined. Have you experienced anything like this with her? I asked, hope rising in my chest. Rachel's bitter laugh sent chills down my spine. Where do I start? The constant criticism, the manipulation, the way she pits us against each other. It's her favorite game. As Rachel shared her own experiences, a pattern emerged. Evelyn's tactics were always the same: divide and conquer, using guilt and fear to maintain control. "There's something else," Rachel said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Something that might help you. Have you ever heard of Grandma Rose's journal?" I frowned. "No, what journal?" "It's a family heirloom. Mom's always been obsessed with it, but Grandma Rose left it to all of us collectively. The thing is, no one's actually read it. Mom keeps it locked away, claims she's protecting it." My mind raced with possibilities. "Do you think it contains something Evelyn doesn't want anyone to see?" "I'd bet my life on it," Rachel replied. "Mom's always been terrified of anyone getting their hands on it. It's in the old family home, in a safe in her study." As we hatched a plan to retrieve the journal, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. If we could uncover Evelyn's secrets, maybe we could put an end to her machinations once and for all. Clara, who had been listening intently, chimed in. "We need to be careful. If Evelyn catches wind of what we're doing, she might accelerate her plans for custody." I nodded, the weight of our mission settling on my shoulders. "We'll need a distraction. Something to keep Evelyn occupied while we search for the journal." Rachel's voice crackled through the speaker. "Leave that to me. I'll arrange a family dinner, get everyone together. Mom won't be able to resist the chance to play her games with all of us there." As we finalized our plans, a text from Simon lit up my phone. "Please come home. We need to talk. I love you." I stared at the screen, conflicting emotions warring within me. Part of me longed to believe him, to run back into his arms and pretend none of this had happened. But the fierce, protective mother in me knew there was no going back. "What are you going to do?" Clara asked softly. I squared my shoulders, a new resolve hardening my voice. "I'm going to fight. For Eli, for myself, and for every member of this family Evelyn has ever tried to control. It's time to end her reign of manipulation." As I looked at Eli, peacefully unaware of the storm brewing around him, I made a silent vow. No matter what it took, I would create a world for him free from Evelyn's toxic influence. The battle ahead would be difficult, but with Clara and Rachel by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. Little did I know, the secrets hidden in Grandma Rose's journal would shake the very foundations of our family and test the limits of love, loyalty, and forgiveness. The night of the family dinner arrived, and my heart pounded as Clara and I approached Evelyn's sprawling Victorian home. Eli was safely with a trusted sitter, allowing us to focus on our mission. Rachel had orchestrated the perfect distraction, ensuring Evelyn would be occupied downstairs while we searched for Grandma Rose's journal. As we slipped through the side entrance, Rachel met us with a tight hug. "Mom's holding court in the living room," she whispered. "You should have about an hour before dinner's served." I nodded, steeling myself. "Let's do this." Clara and I crept up the ornate staircase, our footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. Evelyn's study loomed at the end of the hall, a forbidden sanctuary I'd never dared enter before. The door creaked softly as we entered, and I held my breath, half expecting Evelyn to materialize and catch us red-handed. But the room remained silent, filled only with the musty scent of old books and polished wood. "There," Clara pointed to an antique safe tucked behind Evelyn's desk. "That must be it." My hands trembled as I approached, recalling the combination Rachel had provided. With each turn of the dial, I felt the weight of our actions pressing down on me. This wasn't just about protecting Eli anymore. It was about uncovering the truth that had poisoned this family for generations. The safe clicked open, revealing a leather-bound journal nestled inside. As I lifted it out, a folded paper fluttered to the floor. Clara snatched it up, her eyes widening as she scanned its contents. "Martha," she breathed, "you need to see this." It was a letter, dated decades ago, from Grandma Rose to Evelyn. The words leapt off the page, each one a dagger to my heart. "Evelyn, my darling daughter. I write this with a heavy heart, knowing the pain it may cause. But the truth can no longer be buried. You're not my biological child. We adopted you as an infant, desperate for a child of our own." The letter went on, detailing the circumstances of Evelyn's adoption and Grandma Rose's fears about Evelyn's increasingly controlling behavior. It ended with a plea for Evelyn to seek help and break the cycle of manipulation she'd fallen into. "This explains so much," I whispered, my mind reeling. Evelyn's obsession with control, her fear of the journal being read, it all stemmed from this buried secret. We quickly photographed the letter and turned our attention to the journal. As we flipped through its pages, a sordid history unfolded. Grandma Rose had meticulously documented Evelyn's schemes over the years, manipulated inheritances, sabotaged relationships, even blackmail. "This is it," Clara said, her voice tight with emotion. "This is what we need to expose Evelyn and protect Eli." Just then, footsteps echoed in the hallway. We froze, our hearts pounding in unison. The door handle turned, and Simon stepped into the room, his eyes widening in shock as he took in the scene before him. "Martha, what are you doing here?" His gaze fell on the open safe, the journal in my hands. "Is that Grandma Rose's journal?" For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Everything hinged on this moment. My marriage, Eli's future, the fate of the entire family. I straightened my spine, meeting Simon's confused stare with unwavering resolve. "Simon, we need to talk. About your mother, about us, about everything." I held out the letter. "There's something you need to know." As Simon read, his face paled, emotions flickering across his features, shock, disbelief, anger, and finally, a dawning understanding. He looked up at me, tears glistening in his eyes. "I had no idea," he whispered. "All these years, the way she's acted, it all makes sense now." Before I could respond, Evelyn's voice rang out from downstairs, calling everyone to dinner. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than we'd anticipated. Simon squared his shoulders, a new determination in his eyes. "It's time to end this, once and for all. Are you ready?" I nodded, clutching the journal to my chest. As we descended the stairs, I felt a shift in the air, as if the very foundations of the house were trembling. The secrets hidden within these pages were about to shatter Evelyn's carefully constructed world, and I prayed we'd all emerge stronger on the other side. The dining room was a tableau of forced smiles and nervous glances as we gathered around Evelyn's immaculately set table. Simon's siblings, Rachel, Michael, and Emma, exchanged worried looks, sensing the tension crackling in the air. Evelyn, oblivious to the storm about to break, presided over the scene with her usual air of superiority. "Martha, dear," Evelyn's saccharine voice cut through the stilted small talk, I do hope you've been taking better care of little Eli. You look so tired." I felt Simon stiffen beside me, his hand finding mine under the table. "Actually, Mother," he said, his voice steadier than I'd ever heard it, "Martha's been an incredible mother. It's time we talked about your behavior." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her smile faltering for a moment before reasserting itself. "Whatever do you mean, darling? I'm only looking out for my grandson's well-being. By trying to take him away from his mother?" The words burst from me, fueled by weeks of pent-up anger and fear. "We know about the custody plans, Evelyn. We found the letter." A hush fell over the table. Rachel gasped, while Michael and Emma exchanged shocked glances. Evelyn's face drained of color, her carefully constructed mask slipping. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice brittle. "Simon, surely you don't believe these ridiculous accusations?" Simon took a deep breath, squeezing my hand. "It's true, Mother. I've seen the letter, but that's not all we found." With trembling hands, I placed Grandma Rose's journal on the table. Evelyn's eyes widened in recognition, a flicker of fear crossing her face. "Where did you get that?" she hissed, reaching for the journal. I pulled it back, out of her reach. "It doesn't matter," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "What matters is what's inside. The truth about your past, Evelyn. About who you really are." As I began to read from the journal, recounting Evelyn's adoption and subsequent manipulations, the room fell into a stunned silence. Evelyn's siblings listened in horror as years of lies and schemes were laid bare. You went through my private things." Evelyn sputtered, her composure crumbling. "How dare you? How dare we?" Simon's voice rose, years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. "How dare you, Mother? You've manipulated and controlled this family for decades. You tried to take my son away from his mother. And for what? To fill some void in your own life." Evelyn's face contorted, a mix of rage and desperation. "You don't understand," she pleaded, looking around the table for support. "I did it all for this family. To keep us together. To make us strong." "By tearing us apart?" Rachel interjected, tears streaming down her face. "By pitting us against each other? That's not love, Mother. That's control." As the full weight of her actions sank in, Evelyn seemed to shrink in her chair. The formidable matriarch was gone, replaced by a scared, vulnerable woman. I never meant to hurt anyone," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I just didn't want to lose you all, like I lost my real parents." For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity, but then I remembered Eli and the lengths Evelyn had gone to try and take him from me. Steeling myself, I stood up, the journal clutched to my chest. "It's over, Evelyn," I said firmly. "The lies, the manipulation, all of it ends now. We're taking control of our own lives, our own family." Simon stood beside me, his arm wrapping around my waist. "Mother, we love you," he said softly. "But we can't let this continue. It's time for you to get help, to face the truth about your past and your actions." Evelyn looked up at us, her eyes brimming with tears. For a moment, I saw a glimmer of the scared little girl she must have been, desperate for love and belonging. But then her expression hardened, a familiar glint of defiance in her eyes. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "All of you. You have no idea what I'm capable of." As Evelyn stormed out of the room, leaving a wake of shocked silence behind her, I realized the battle was far from over. We had won this skirmish, but the war for our family's future was just beginning. And Evelyn, wounded but not defeated, was more dangerous than ever. The days following the explosive family dinner were a whirlwind of tension and uncertainty. Evelyn had disappeared, leaving only a trail of unanswered calls and cryptic text messages. Simon and I retreated to our home, clinging to each other and Eli as we braced for the inevitable storm. It was a crisp autumn morning when the doorbell rang, shattering the fragile peace we'd managed to construct. Simon and I exchanged wary glances before he went to answer it. I held Eli close, my heart pounding as I heard Evelyn's voice drift in from the entryway. "Simon, darling, we need to talk. Alone." I stepped into the hallway, Eli nestled against my chest. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of both of us," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Evelyn's eyes narrowed as they fell on me, but she composed herself quickly. "Very well. I've come to offer an olive branch. A chance to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us." Simon tensed beside me. "Misunderstanding? Mother, you tried to take our son away. You manipulated our entire family for years." "I did what I thought was best," Evelyn insisted, her voice taking on a pleading tone. "Can't you see that? Everything I've done has been for this family." I felt a surge of anger rise within me. "No, Evelyn. Everything you've done has been for yourself. To maintain control, to fill the void left by your own insecurities." Evelyn's facade cracked, revealing a flash of the desperation I'd glimpsed at the dinner. "You don't understand. None of you do. I can't lose this family. I won't." She reached into her purse, pulling out a thick envelope. "I have connections, influence. I can make things very difficult for you both if you insist on pursuing this course of action." Simon stepped forward, placing himself between Evelyn and us. "Are you threatening us, Mother?" "I'm offering you a choice," Evelyn said, her voice cold. "Drop this nonsense about the journal, agree to shared custody of Eli, and we can all move forward as a family. Refuse and, well, I'm sure you'd hate for certain information about your past indiscretions to come to light, Simon." I felt Simon stiffen, and for a heart-stopping moment, I feared he might waver. But then he straightened, his voice firm as he addressed his mother. "No more, Mother. No more threats, no more manipulation. It ends here. Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. Simon, think about what you're saying. Everything I've done for you. For this family. No, Simon said, his voice breaking slightly. You did it for yourself. To control us. To fill some void in your own life. But we're not your pawns, Mother. We're your family. And if you can't see that, if you can't accept us as we are, then you leave us no choice. He turned to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and resolve. Martha, I'm so sorry for ever doubting you, for not standing up to her sooner. Can you forgive me? Tears welled in my eyes as I nodded, shifting Eli to one arm so I could take Simon's hand. Together, we faced Evelyn, presenting a united front. This is your last chance, Mother, Simon said softly. Get help. Deal with your past, with your need for control. If you do, there might be a place for you in our lives. But if you continue down this path, if you try to come between us and our son again, we'll have no choice but to cut you out of our lives completely. Evelyn stared at us, her face a mask of shock and fury. For a moment, I thought she might lash out, might make good on her threats. But then, something in her seemed to crumble. The formidable matriarch we'd known all these years vanished, leaving behind a small, frightened woman. I don't know how to be any other way, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Then learn, I said, surprising myself with the compassion in my voice. For your sake, and for ours. As Evelyn turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped in defeat, I felt a weight lift from my chest. The battle wasn't over. There would be legal matters to settle, wounds to heal, trust to rebuild. But in that moment, holding Eli and standing hand in hand with Simon, I knew we had taken the first step towards reclaiming our lives and our family. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in months, I felt hope blossoming in my heart. We had faced the storm together and emerged stronger for it. Whatever came next, we would face it as a family, on our own terms. 6 months had passed since our confrontation with Evelyn, and the world seemed to have shifted on its axis. As I watched Eli take his first wobbly steps across our living room, I marveled at how much had changed, both within our family and within myself. Simon knelt beside me, his face beaming with pride as he coaxed Eli forward. That's it, little man. Come to Daddy. Eli giggled, his chubby legs carrying him into Simon's waiting arms. As I watched them together, my heart swelled with love and gratitude. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger for it. The road to healing hadn't been easy. There were nights filled with tears and difficult conversations as Simon and I worked to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. But with each passing day, our bond grew stronger, forged in the fire of adversity we had faced together. Evelyn, true to her word, had sought professional help. It was a long and painful process for her, confronting the deep-seated insecurities and fears that had driven her manipulative behavior for so long. While our relationship with her remained cautious, we had begun to see glimmers of the loving mother and grandmother she could be. Freed from the chains of her past, the rest of the family, too, was healing. Rachel, Michael, and Emma had become regular fixtures in our lives. The siblings finally able to forge genuine connections without Evelyn's interference. Family dinners, once a source of dread, had become joyous occasions filled with laughter and honest conversation. As for me, I had discovered a strength I never knew I possessed. The woman who had once doubted her ability to be a good mother now stood tall, confident in her choices and fiercely protective of her family. I had even started a support group for new mothers, sharing my experiences and helping others navigate the challenges of early parenthood and difficult family dynamics. A knock at the door interrupted our family moment. I opened it to find Clara, her arms laden with gifts for Eli's upcoming first birthday. "Look at this big boy," she exclaimed, setting down her packages to scoop Eli into a hug. "I can't believe how much he's grown." As Clara settled in, regaling us with stories of her latest adventures, I was struck by a wave of contentment. This was what family should be, a network of love and support, built on honesty and mutual respect. Later that night, as Simon and I tucked Eli into bed, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. "Do you ever wonder," I asked softly, "if we did the right thing? With your mother, I mean." Simon was quiet for a moment, his hand finding mine in the dim light of the nursery. "I think we did the only thing we could do," he said finally. "We broke the cycle. For Eli, for ourselves, and even for Mom." I nodded, leaning into his embrace. "Do you think true forgiveness is possible? After everything that happened?" "I don't know," Simon admitted. "But I think forgiveness isn't always about forgetting or excusing. Sometimes it's about choosing to move forward, to give people the chance to be better." As we stood there, watching our son sleep peacefully, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had faced our demons, confronted the painful truths that had threatened to tear us apart, and emerged on the other side, battered, perhaps, but unbroken. The future stretched out before us, full of promise and possibility. There would be challenges ahead, of course. Parenthood and family life were never without their trials. But I knew now that we had the strength to face whatever came our way, together. As I drifted off to sleep that night, Eli's soft breathing a comforting rhythm in the background, I found myself pondering one last question. In the intricate web of family relationships, where does one draw the line between loyalty and self-preservation? Between forgiveness and protecting oneself from further harm? Perhaps I realized there was no universal answer. Each family, each individual, must find their own path through the tangled emotions of love, hurt, and healing. Our journey had taught me that true strength lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall, and in having the courage to redefine our relationships on our own terms. With that thought, I closed my eyes, ready to embrace whatever new adventures tomorrow might bring. The storm had passed, and a new dawn had broken. Not just for our little family, but for all of us who had learned to stand tall in the face of adversity and to find the light even in the darkest of times. I never expected to find the letter that would tear my family apart while cleaning out Dad's workshop. But there it was, tucked between old receipts and warranty cards in his metal toolbox. My name written in his familiar scrawl across a sealed envelope. "My name is Harper, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I understood the dynamics of the Malone family I'd married into." That understanding crumbled the moment I read my father-in-law Frank's last words to me. "I should have done this years ago," I muttered, brushing sawdust off my jeans as I sat on his old workbench. The letter trembled in my hands as I read. "Dear Harper, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I need you to be strong for what's coming. Maggie, my wife, will try to take control. She always has. But this time, it's different. She's afraid of being alone, and she'll use that fear to manipulate Ethan. Don't let her destroy what you and my son have built. Watch over them both. You're the only one who can keep this family together now. Love, Dad." The paper crinkled in my grip as I fought back tears. Frank had passed away just 2 weeks ago, and already his predictions were coming true. Maggie had been dropping by daily, calling Ethan at all hours, and making comments about how empty her house felt. "Harper? You still in there?" Ethan's voice echoed through the garage. I quickly folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket. "Yeah, just finishing up," I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his dark hair disheveled from running his hands through it, a nervous habit he'd picked up since his father's death. "Mom's here. She wants to talk to us about something important." Of course she was. She always seemed to show up when I was trying to process things. "I'll be right there," I said, forcing a smile. Inside, Maggie sat at our kitchen table, perfectly put together as always in her cream blazer and pearl earrings. The only sign of her supposed grief was the slight tremor in her hands as she clutched her teacup. "Harper, dear," she said, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes sharp. "I've been thinking about what's best for everyone, and I simply can't stay in that big house all alone." My stomach dropped. I glanced at Ethan, who was studying the floor tiles like they held the secrets of the universe. "I've decided to sell the house," Maggie continued. "And I thought, wouldn't it be lovely if I moved in here? Just temporarily, of course." The word temporarily hung in the air like a storm cloud. Frank's letter burned in my pocket. Mom, Ethan started, finally looking up. That's a big decision. Maybe we should take some time to. Oh, darling, Maggie interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. Your father would have wanted us to stay together as a family. You wouldn't want me rattling around in that empty house all by myself, would you? I watched my husband's resolve crumble under his mother's practiced guilt trip. No, of course not, he mumbled. Excellent. Maggie brightened immediately. Jenna's already offered to help me pack. We can start moving things this weekend. As Maggie laid out her plans, I felt the walls of my home, my safe space, beginning to close in. Frank's words echoed in my mind, watch over them both. But how could I protect my marriage when the threat was coming to live under our roof? Later that night, as I lay awake listening to Ethan's steady breathing, I pulled out Frank's letter again. In the dim light from the window, one line stood out, "You're the only one who can keep this family together now." I just wished he'd told me how. It took exactly 3 days for my life to become a carefully choreographed dance around Maggie's feelings. I'd wake up early to work in my home office, only to find her already in the kitchen, rearranging my cabinets because that's how Ethan grew up with them. I'd been staring at my computer screen for an hour, trying to focus on a client's logo design, when the sound of Maggie's voice drifted through the walls. Again. Ethan, darling, the guest room is just so stuffy. Perhaps we could move me into the office? Harper could work at the kitchen table. She's always saying she needs to get out more. I yanked my headphones off just as Ethan's reply came, too soft to hear. Classic Ethan, probably mumbling some non-committal response. The front door clicked shut. He was leaving for work, escaping the tension while I remained trapped in it. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patterson next door. Coffee? Your mother-in-law is reorganizing your front garden. Again. I found Maggie on her knees in my carefully planned herb garden, pulling up the lavender I'd planted last spring. My lavender. The ones Frank had helped me choose. Oh, Harper. Maggie looked up, soil staining her expensive gardening gloves. I hope you don't mind. These were all wrong for this spot. I'm putting in roses instead. Ethan's always loved roses. My fingers curled into fists. Actually, Maggie, I do mind. That lavender was. Jenna. Maggie called out, cutting me off as her daughter appeared in the driveway. Perfect timing. Help me with these plants, dear. Jenna sauntered over, designer sunglasses perched on her head. Sorry, Mom. Just stopping by to grab those papers you mentioned. I watched them exchange a look that made my skin crawl. What papers? Oh, nothing important, Maggie waved dismissively. Just some things your father left behind, Jenna. Harper, would you be a dear and make us some tea? In my own house. In my own garden. I turned without a word and went inside, but instead of heading to the kitchen, I slipped into the garage. Something about their exchange felt off, and Frank's letter had taught me to trust my instincts. I pressed my ear to the door leading to the garden. The house should sell quickly, Jenna was saying. The market's hot right now. Perfect. Once it's sold, we can. Maggie's voice dropped lower. But what about Harper? Jenna asked. She's not going to like. Harper doesn't need to concern herself with family matters, Maggie replied sharply. Besides, Ethan will understand. He always does. My hands shook as I pushed away from the door. Family matters? I was family. I'd been family for 6 years, but somehow I was still an outsider looking in. That evening, I tried to talk to Ethan about it over dinner. Maggie had gone to her book club, the only 2 hours of peace we got anymore. I think your mom and Jenna are planning something with the house, I said, pushing my food around my plate. Ethan sighed. Harper, please. Mom's still grieving. Can we not do this tonight? When should we do it then? When she's completely taken over our lives. The words burst out before I could stop them. She's my mother, he said quietly. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to be my husband first. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan stared at his plate, his fork suspended midair. Before he could respond, the front door opened and Maggie's voice rang out. I'm home early. I brought dessert. I stood up so quickly my chair scraped against the floor. I need some air. As I walked past Maggie, I caught a glimpse of something falling from her purse, a real estate agent's business card. She snatched it up quickly, but not before I saw the handwritten note on the back, offer accepted. That night, I lay awake again, Frank's words echoing in my mind. Keep the family together, he'd said. But how could I keep together something that was already breaking apart? I needed proof. And I knew exactly where to look for it. Frank's study at the old house, where he kept everything. Tomorrow, while Maggie was at her hair appointment, I would find out exactly what she and Jenna were planning. I just hoped I was ready for whatever truth I might discover. The key to Frank's study felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket as I pulled into the driveway of his, now Maggie's, house. I'd kept the spare key all these years, using it to water plants when they traveled. Now I was using it to break in. Technically. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door. The house still smelled like Frank's pipe tobacco and furniture polish. Maggie's hair appointment gave me 2 hours, tops. I made my way to his study, where morning light filtered through dusty blinds. Everything was exactly as he'd left it, except for the filing cabinet. The drawers hung open, papers scattered across the floor. Someone had been searching for something. I started with his desk, rifling through drawers until I found a leather-bound book wedged in the back. Frank's diary. I'd seen him writing in it countless times, usually after family arguments. The first entry I opened made my blood run cold. Maggie's done it again. Pushed away another of Ethan's girlfriends. Sarah was a sweet girl, but Maggie convinced Ethan she was using him for his money. The real crime? Sarah stood up to Maggie about her constant meddling. I should say something, but footsteps creaked overhead. I froze. Harper's car is outside. Jenna's voice drifted down. Perfect timing, Maggie replied. We need to deal with this now. I scrambled to take photos of the diary pages with my phone, heart pounding. The footsteps grew closer. Harper. Maggie's voice rang out from the hallway. What a surprise to find you here. I shoved the diary back into the drawer and spun around. Maggie stood in the doorway, Jenna hovering behind her. Both were dressed for lunch, not a hair appointment in sight. I gestured vaguely at the mess of papers. Helping clean up. How thoughtful. Maggie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Though I do wonder why you didn't ask first. This is my house now, after all. Is it? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Because I saw the real estate agent's card. You're selling it, aren't you? Without telling Ethan. Jenna stepped forward. It's complicated, Harper. You wouldn't understand. I understand perfectly, I cut her off. You're selling the house and splitting the money while leaving Maggie to live with us permanently. Did I miss anything? You're upset, Maggie said softly, moving closer. Grief makes us all a bit paranoid sometimes. Why don't we discuss this over tea? Stop it, I snapped. Stop pretending you care about my feelings when you're plotting behind my back. Behind your own son's back. Everything I do is for Ethan, Maggie's voice hardened. He needs his family close. He needs his mother. You're just temporary. The word hit like a slap. We've been married for 6 years. And I've been his mother for 34. Maggie smiled. Who do you think he'll choose when he finds out you've been sneaking around, going through his dead father's things? My phone felt heavy in my pocket, the diary photos my only proof. But Maggie was right. Ethan would hate that I'd come here without telling him. You can't manipulate people forever, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Frank saw right through you. That's why he warned me. Warned you. Maggie's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I'd said too much. Nothing. I should go. Show me, Maggie demanded, blocking the doorway. Show me what Frank gave you. Mom, Jenna touched her arm. Maybe we should. Stay out of this. Maggie snapped. Well, Harper? What did my husband say about me? I pushed past them both, nearly running for the front door. Behind me, Maggie called out, You can't protect him from me, Harper. Ethan will always choose his family. I am his family. I shouted back, but the only response was the sound of my own footsteps on the porch steps. In my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I pulled out my phone. The diary photos were there, along with Frank's letter at home. Proof of everything. But Maggie was right about one thing. Who would Ethan believe? His grieving mother or his paranoid wife? I started the car, Frank's words echoing in my head. Watch over them both. I just hadn't realized how much I'd be risking to do it. I sat in my car outside Mrs. Patterson's house for 20 minutes, clutching my phone with the diary photos. Before I finally worked up the courage to go inside, she opened the door before I could knock, concern etched on her face. I saw what happened at the house, she said, ushering me in. That woman's been trouble since the day Frank married her. The familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon filled her kitchen, a stark contrast to the tension suffocating my own home. You knew Frank before Maggie? Mrs. Patterson set 2 mugs on the table. 30 years of watching that family. Frank was a good man who made one bad choice, letting Maggie control everything. My phone buzzed. Ethan, Mom says you broke into the house? We need to talk. Of course she'd beaten me to it. I switched off my phone. Show me what you found, Mrs. Patterson said quietly. I pulled up the diary photos. As she read, her expression darkened. There's more, she said finally. Frank came to see me the day before he died. He was going to change his will. My coffee went cold as she told me everything. How Frank had discovered Maggie's secret account, filled with money she'd been siphoning from their savings for years. How he'd planned to protect Ethan's inheritance. How he died before he could sign the new documents. That's why they're rushing to sell the house, I whispered. Before anyone can look too closely at the finances. The front door chimed. Mrs. Patterson tensed. That'll be Ethan. I called him. You what? He needs to see this, Harper. All of it. Ethan stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. Harper, what's going on? Mom's crying, saying you're trying to turn everyone against her. Sit down, Ethan, Mrs. Patterson commanded. There's something you need to see. I watched his face as he read the diary entries, as Mrs. Patterson explained about the will. The color drained from his cheeks. This can't be right, he muttered. Mom wouldn't. Check the account numbers in Frank's desk, Mrs. Patterson said. If you hurry, you might still find the proof before she destroys it. Ethan's phone rang. Maggie's name flashed on the screen. He stared at it, then declined the call. I need to think, he said, standing abruptly. I can't. I need time. Ethan, I reached for him, but he pulled away. Don't. His voice cracked. Just don't. After he left, I slumped in my chair. That went well. Give him time, Mrs. Patterson said. But be careful. Maggie's most dangerous when she's cornered. I drove home slowly, dreading what waited for me. But nothing could have prepared me for what I found. The house was dark except for the kitchen. Maggie sat at the table, Frank's letter, my letter, in her hands. Looking for this? She asked softly. Jenna found it while helping me organize your office. Imagine my surprise. My throat went dry. That's private. Private? She laughed. This letter is a sad old man's paranoid ramblings. Frank was losing his mind at the end, you know. Imagining conspiracies, making wild accusations. He was protecting his family from you. I am his family. She slammed her hand on the table. Everything I've done has been for this family. And you. She stood, letter clutched in her fist. You're trying to destroy us. No, I'm trying to save us. All of us. By turning my son against me? By digging through private papers. Her voice rose. I won't let you take him from me. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. Everything you've stolen, you mean. The words hung between us like smoke. Something shifted in Maggie's eyes, something cold and calculating. You know what your problem is, Harper? You think this is about money. But it's not. She moved closer. It's about power. And you? You have none. She was right. In this moment, with Ethan doubting everything and Frank's letter in her hands, I had nothing. Almost nothing. I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over the diary photos. One click and I could send them to everyone. Ethan, Jenna, the family lawyer. Maggie's eyes narrowed at the phone. What are you doing? Choosing my family, I said, and pressed send. The family dinner was Maggie's idea. Of course it was. To clear the air, she'd said, as if sending those diary photos hadn't just blown everything wide open. But here we were, seated around our dining room table, the tension thick enough to choke on. Jenna wouldn't meet my eyes. She pushed her food around her plate, shoulders hunched. The diary entries had revealed her role in everything: the secret meetings about the house sale, the planned distribution of Frank's money. "This is lovely, Harper," Maggie said, cutting into her chicken with precise movements, though perhaps a touch overdone. I gripped my fork tighter. Ethan hadn't said a word since arriving home, his eyes fixed on some point between his plate and the wall. "Did you check the account numbers?" I asked quietly. Maggie's knife scraped against the plate. "Harper, dear, this isn't the time." "Did you check them, Ethan?" He finally looked up. "Yes." The word hung in the air like smoke. "And?" Jenna's voice cracked. "The money's gone," Ethan said. "All of it. Transferred out 3 days after Dad died." Maggie set down her utensils with a delicate clink. "I can explain." "Can you explain the other accounts?" Ethan's voice was eerily calm. "The ones you've been filling for years? With Dad's money." "Our money," Maggie corrected. "Everything I did was for this family. To protect us." "Protect us?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "You stole from your husband, manipulated your children, and tried to destroy my marriage. How is that protection?" "You don't understand what it takes to keep a family together," Maggie snapped. "Frank was weak. He would have given everything away, left us with nothing." I had to act. "He was trying to stop you," I said. "He knew what you were doing. He knew nothing." Maggie's fist hit the table, making the glasses jump. "He was a fool who trusted everyone, who never understood that love isn't enough. Power keeps families together. Control." "Mom," Jenna whispered, "stop." "No, let her finish," Ethan said. "Let's hear how control..." with these ridiculous accusations. "They're not accusations when we have proof," I cut in. "The diary, the accounts, the house sale you tried to hide." "Enough." Maggie stood, her chair scraping back. "I won't sit here and be attacked in my own home." "This isn't your home," I said, standing to face her. "And we're not your puppets anymore." "Ethan," Maggie's voice wavered. "Are you going to let her speak to me this way?" The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. Ethan looked at his mother, then at me, then back at his plate. "Dad knew," he said finally. "He knew what you were doing, and he tried to stop you." "And you." His voice caught. "You let me blame Harper. You made me think she was paranoid, jealous, when all along I was protecting you," Maggie insisted. "Everything I did was for yourself," Ethan finished. He stood slowly. "Pack your things, Mom. Tonight." The color drained from Maggie's face. "You can't mean that. I'm your mother. And I'm your son, not your possession." Ethan's voice shook, but his eyes were steady. "It's over." Maggie turned to Jenna, who shrank back. "Jenna, tell them. Tell them why we needed the money." But Jenna stood, gathering her purse. "I'm sorry, Mom. I can't do this anymore." As Jenna fled, Maggie's facade finally cracked. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "All of you. When you realize what family really means." "We already know," I said quietly. "Frank showed us. And it's nothing like what you've done." Maggie straightened, smoothing her shirt with trembling hands. "This isn't over," she said, before turning and walking stiffly toward the guest room. In the sudden silence, I felt Ethan's hand find mine under the table. His grip was tight, desperate. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have seen it sooner." I squeezed his hand back, but something in me knew Maggie was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. From upstairs came the sound of drawers slamming, and I wondered what else Maggie might have hidden away, waiting to be discovered. The morning after Maggie left, I found her pearl earrings on the guest room nightstand. A calculated move. She'd never forget jewelry. Especially not pieces Frank had given her. I was still staring at them when Ethan's phone buzzed. His face went pale as he read the message. "She's at the hospital," he said. "Apparently she collapsed at her hotel." My stomach clenched. It's another manipulation. Probably. He grabbed his keys anyway. But what if it's not? I watched him leave, the pearls cold in my palm. Even gone, she was pulling his strings. The house felt empty and too full at the same time. I started cleaning the guest room, trying to erase Maggie's presence, when I found the first document. Then another. And another. Bank statements. Insurance policies. Legal papers. My hands shook as I read them. Frank hadn't just been planning to change his will, he'd already started transferring assets, protecting them from Maggie. But he'd died before finishing, leaving everything vulnerable. The doorbell rang. Jenna stood there, looking smaller somehow without Maggie's shadow behind her. "Is it true?" she asked. "About Mom? The hospital?" "Yes." "No." Jenna stepped inside, wringing her hands. "About Dad's money. The transfers." I showed her the papers. "You didn't know?" "I knew about Mom's accounts, but not." She sank onto the couch. "She told me Dad was trying to cut us all off. That we had to protect ourselves." "And you believed her?" "She's my mother." Jenna's voice cracked. What else was I supposed to do? My phone buzzed. "Ethan, she's being admitted. They found pills in her purse." "Jesus," Jenna whispered, reading over my shoulder. "You don't think she'd actually?" Another text. "She's asking for you." Of course she was. The hospital corridor seemed endless. Each step felt like walking into a trap, but I couldn't turn back. Not with Ethan waiting, hope and fear warring in his eyes. Maggie looked small in the hospital bed, her makeup perfectly applied despite everything. Always keeping up appearances. "Harper," she said softly. "You came. You knew I would. Did you find them? The papers?" I stiffened. "You left them for me to find." "Frank was going to destroy us," she whispered. "Break apart everything I built." "I couldn't let that happen." "You did that yourself." "Did I?" She smiled faintly. "Look around, Harper. My children are here, worried about their mother. Family always comes first. Blood always wins. This isn't winning, Maggie. This is desperation." "Is it?" Her voice hardened. "I've already spoken to my lawyer. Those transfers Frank made? Illegal without my consent. And now with my fragile mental state clearly documented, who do you think they'll believe? The grieving widow or the daughter-in-law who's been causing so much stress?" The trap snapped shut. She'd planned this perfectly. The papers, the hospital, everything orchestrated to make me look like the villain. "You'd destroy your own son's marriage to keep control? I'm protecting him from you." She reached for the call button. "Now, I'm feeling rather tired." All this stress. In the hallway, Ethan and Jenna waited anxiously. "How is she?" Jenna asked. I opened my mouth to expose Maggie's scheme, but stopped. They looked so worried, so desperate to believe their mother wasn't a monster. Telling them would only prove Maggie right. That blood comes first. "She needs rest," I said instead. Ethan squeezed my hand. "Thank you for coming." I know it wasn't easy. If he only knew. I'd walked right into Maggie's web, and now I was trapped. Fight back, and I'd look like the unstable one destroying the family. Stay quiet and watch her take everything, the money, the house, maybe even my marriage. Frank's letter felt heavy in my pocket, his warning too late. I thought I was protecting the family, but Maggie had been playing a longer game all along. As we left the hospital, I caught her watching from the window, her smile reflected in the glass. She'd won this round. But the game wasn't over. Not yet. The last place I expected to find answers was in Frank's garden. But there I was, pulling weeds from around his prized roses, when my trowel hit something solid. A metal box, weathered but intact, with "For Maggie" etched on the lid. Inside was a letter, different from mine. The paper was newer, the ink fresher. Frank's last message to his wife. I was still reading when Maggie's shadow fell across the page. "That's private." Her voice was sharp, despite her supposed fragility. She'd been released from the hospital yesterday. Like the financial records were private? I stood, letter in hand. "Or Frank's attempts to protect his children from you? Give me the letter, Harper." He knew, I said. Not just about the money. About everything. The manipulation, the control, the fear you use to keep everyone in line. Maggie stepped closer. You have no idea what it takes to keep a family together. Neither do you. That's what Frank was trying to tell you. I held up the letter. He loved you, but he saw what you'd become. What you were doing to your children. Don't you dare presume to know my husband's mind. I don't have to. He wrote it all down. I started reading aloud. Maggie, my love. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. And you'll be alone, truly alone, unless you learn to let go. Stop. Her voice cracked. Our children aren't possessions. Love isn't control. I've watched you tighten your grip year after year, telling yourself it was for their own good. But all you've done is teach them that love hurts. I said stop. She lunged for the letter, but I stepped back. I'm protecting them now in death as I should have in life. The money doesn't matter. What matters is breaking the cycle before you destroy everything we built. Maggie's facade crumbled. He had no right. No right to judge me, to try to take my family. They were never yours to take. The words exploded out of me. They're people, Maggie. Your children. Not chess pieces in your game of control. Everything I did was for them. Everything you did was for yourself. I held out the letter. Frank knew that. He loved you enough to tell you the truth, even if it meant you'd hate him for it. She took the letter with trembling hands. You don't understand. Without control, without them needing me. They'll always need you. They'll always love you. But not like this. Footsteps crunched on gravel. Ethan and Jenna stood at the garden gate, watching us. Mom? Jenna's voice was small. What's going on? Maggie straightened, instinctively reaching for her usual mask of control. But something in Frank's letter had cracked her foundation. She looked at her children, then back at the letter. I don't know how to be any other way. Then learn, Ethan said quietly. With us. But no more manipulation. No more control. You'll leave me. The fear in her voice was raw, real. We're already leaving, Jenna stepped forward. Can't you see that? Your control isn't keeping us close, it's pushing us away. Maggie sank onto the garden bench, Frank's letter crushed in her grip. For the first time, I saw her as she really was, not the manipulative monster I'd built up in my mind, but a frightened woman who'd confused control for love for so long she couldn't tell the difference anymore. Frank knew, I said softly. That's why he left these letters. Not to punish you, but to save you. To save all of us. I don't know how to let go, Maggie whispered. Start by telling the truth, Ethan said. All of it. She looked up at her children, then at me. The mask was gone, leaving only raw vulnerability behind. The truth, she repeated, smoothing Frank's letter with shaking hands. Yes, I suppose it's time. As she began to speak, I watched the roses Frank had planted sway in the breeze. He'd known this moment would come. Known that truth, like his beloved flowers, needed both sunshine and rain to grow. The war wasn't over, but the battlefield had shifted. And in Frank's garden, surrounded by his legacy of love, we took the first steps toward healing. 6 months after finding Frank's last letter, I stood in his garden again. The roses were blooming despite everything. Maybe because of everything. Maggie's therapy sessions had become weekly rituals, followed by careful conversations over coffee. Not in our house, we all agreed those boundaries needed to stay firm, but in neutral territory, where the weight of history felt lighter. The roses need pruning, Maggie said, joining me by the flower beds. She didn't try to take over, didn't reach for the shears. Progress. I know, I replied. I'm learning. She nodded, understanding we weren't just talking about flowers. Frank would be proud. Of all of us. The front door opened, and Ethan emerged with boxes. The house was finally being packed up, not for a quick sale, but for new beginnings. Jenna had decided to move in, to make it her home while Maggie transitioned to a smaller place nearby. Mom, Ethan called out. We found your old photo albums. Where do you want them? You keep them, she said, then caught herself. Unless you don't want to. The hesitation was new. The asking instead of telling. Small steps. We'll make copies, I offered. Everyone should have their own. Jenna appeared with more boxes, pausing to survey the garden. Remember when Dad used to hide Easter eggs out here? You get so mad about the grass getting trampled. Did I? Maggie's voice softened. I suppose I was rather particular about things. Particular is one word for it, Jenna said, but there was humor in her tone now, not bitterness. As they shared memories, I slipped away to the back corner of the garden where Frank's tool shed stood. We'd been clearing it out all morning, but something had caught my eye, a loose board near the workbench. Behind it, I found one last letter. Not to Maggie or to me, but to all of us. Found something? Ethan asked, appearing in the doorway. I showed him the envelope. Soon, we were all gathered in the garden, around the bench where everything had changed 6 months ago. To my family, I read, if you're reading this, you've either finally cleaned the shed, about time, or you've learned what I always knew, that love is stronger than fear, truth more powerful than control. Maggie, my dear, I hope you've discovered that letting go doesn't mean being alone. Harper, protecting the family doesn't mean fighting their battles, but helping them find their own strength. Ethan, Jenna, your lives are your own, but that doesn't mean you can't share them with those you love. The garden will always need tending, just like family. But remember, the most beautiful roses grow not from force, but from care, patience, and the courage to let them bloom in their own way. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And when in doubt, remember, love doesn't control, it liberates. All my love, Frank. Silence fell, broken only by the rustle of leaves and distant wind chimes. He always did know what to say, Maggie whispered, wiping her eyes. Even when we didn't want to hear it. Especially then, Ethan added, squeezing my hand. We spent the rest of the afternoon sorting through boxes, sharing stories, and learning the delicate art of being family without the chains of control. It wasn't perfect. Maggie still struggled with boundaries. Jenna was learning to trust again. And Ethan sometimes caught himself trying to please everyone. But as I watched them together, I realized Frank had been right all along. Protection wasn't about fighting battles or keeping secrets. It was about creating space for truth to bloom, for healing to take root. Later, as Ethan and I headed home, I caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror, Maggie in the garden, not directing or controlling, but simply tending to the roses she'd once used as weapons of manipulation. Now they were just flowers, beautiful in their simplicity. Ready? Ethan asked. I thought about Frank's letters, about battles fought and wounds healed, about the difference between controlling love and setting it free. Yes, I said. I think we all are. The garden would need tending tomorrow and the day after that. But now we knew, the most important growth happens not in spite of the storms, but because of them.
The spaghetti slipped from my fork, splattering red sauce across the pristine white tablecloth. I stared at the stain, my appetite vanishing as quickly as my husband's affection seemed to have. For God's sake, Mia, Adam snapped, his blue eyes flashing with irritation. Can't you eat without making a mess? I blinked, taken aback by the harshness in his voice. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Save it, he cut me off, dabbing at his shirt with a napkin. This is why I can't take you anywhere nice anymore. Our children, Laura and David, exchanged uncomfortable glances across the table. Laura, ever the peacemaker at 22, cleared her throat. Dad, it was just an accident. No big deal, right? Adam's jaw clenched. Your mother should know better by now. She's not a child. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment and confusion. This wasn't like Adam at all. Sure, we'd had our ups and downs over the years, but he'd never spoken to me with such disdain before, especially not in front of the kids. David, my sensitive 17-year-old, pushed his chair back abruptly. I'm not hungry anymore, he muttered, avoiding eye contact. Sit down, Adam ordered. We're having a family dinner, and you'll stay until we're finished. I found my voice at last. Adam, what's gotten into you? It was an accident, and you're acting like I committed a crime. He fixed me with a cold stare. Maybe if you put as much effort into your cooking as you do into making excuses, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Laura gasped. Dad, I felt as though I'd been slapped. Adam had always praised my cooking, even on my off days. This sudden change in attitude was more than just a bad mood. Something was seriously wrong. I think we're all done here, I said quietly, standing up. Kids, why don't you go watch TV in the living room? Your father and I need to talk. As soon as Laura and David left, I turned to Adam. What the hell is going on with you? He leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Nothing's going on, Mia. I'm just tired of pretending everything's fine when it's clearly not. Pretending? I echoed, my heart racing. What are you talking about? Adam stood up, towering over me. Face it, Mia. You've let yourself go. The house is a mess. Your cooking is subpar at best, and you've become boring. He spat out the last word like it was poison. I felt as though the floor was tilting beneath my feet. Adam, where is this coming from? If you're unhappy, we can talk about it. We can go to counseling, work on. He laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound that sent chills down my spine. Counseling? Please. It's too late for that, Mia. I've found someone who actually knows how to keep a man interested. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table for support. You're having an affair? Adam's eyes gleamed with a cruel satisfaction I'd never seen before. Affairs are for cowards who can't commit. I'm leaving you, Mia. I've found someone who makes me feel alive again. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, and I felt like I might be sick. How long? I managed to choke out. Long enough to know it's the real deal, he replied, grabbing his jacket from the back of his chair. I'll be back for my things tomorrow. Don't bother trying to change my mind. It's over. As Adam strode towards the front door, I found myself following him, desperation clawing at my insides. Adam, please, I begged. Think about the kids. We can work this out. I know we can. He paused with his hand on the doorknob, turning to face me one last time. The kids will understand eventually. They deserve to see their father happy. With that, he was gone, leaving me standing in the doorway, my world crumbling around me. I could hear Laura and David's muffled voices from the living room, no doubt wondering what was happening. How was I going to tell them? How could I possibly explain that their father just walked out on us without a backward glance? As I sank to the floor, tears finally spilling down my cheeks, one thought burned through the fog of shock and pain. This isn't over, Adam. Not by a long shot. The silence in our house was deafening. It had been a week since Adam's dramatic exit, and the tension hung in the air like a heavy fog. I stood at the kitchen counter, mechanically spreading peanut butter on bread for David's lunch, when Laura's voice startled me. Mom, we need to talk about Dad. I turned to face my daughter, her eyes red-rimmed from nights of crying. What about him, sweetheart? Laura twisted her hands nervously. He wants us to meet someone, a woman named Kate. The knife clattered to the floor, splattering peanut butter across the tiles. He what? I'm sorry, Mom, Laura whispered. I didn't want to upset you, but David and I thought you should know. I gripped the counter, my knuckles turning white. When did he tell you this? Last night. He called us both separately. Laura's voice cracked. Mom, I don't want to meet her. I don't want any of this. I pulled my daughter into a fierce hug, feeling her body shake with sobs. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with, Laura. I promise. Just then, David shuffled into the kitchen, his eyes downcast. I guess Laura told you, he muttered. I reached out to include him in our embrace, but he flinched away. David, honey, talk to me. How are you feeling about all this? His head snapped up, eyes blazing with anger. How am I feeling? I'm feeling like Dad's a lying, cheating bastard who doesn't give a damn about any of us. David, Laura gasped. No, let him speak, I said quietly. We all need to be honest about our feelings right now. David's fists clenched at his sides. I hate him, Mom. I hate what he's doing to us, and I hate that he expects us to play happy families with his whore. The venom in his voice shocked me, but before I could respond, the doorbell rang. We all froze, staring at each other in confusion. I'll get it, I said, smoothing down my hair and taking a deep breath. I opened the door to find Adam standing there, looking annoyingly put together in a crisp suit. Mia, he said coolly, we need to talk. About what? I snapped. About how you're trying to force our children to meet your mistress? Adam's eyes narrowed. Kate is not my mistress. She's my partner, and yes, I want our kids to meet her. It's time to move forward. I laughed bitterly. Move forward. It's been a week, Adam. A week since you blew up our entire lives. Mom, David's voice came from behind me. What's he doing here? Adam tried to peer around me. David, son, Don't call me that, David shouted, pushing past me to confront his father. You don't get to walk out on us and then act like everything's normal. Laura appeared in the doorway, her face pale. Dad, please just go. We're not ready for this. I saw a flicker of pain cross Adam's face, quickly replaced by a mask of indifference. I'm sorry you feel that way, but Kate and I are starting a life together, and I want you to be part of it. A life together? I echoed, disbelief coloring my voice. Adam, what aren't you telling us? He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Kate's pregnant. We're having a baby. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I heard Laura's sharp intake of breath and David's muttered curse. Get out, I whispered, my voice trembling with rage. Get out of our house, Adam. Now. He opened his mouth to argue, but something in my expression must have warned him off. With a final, regretful look at our children, he turned and walked away. I slammed the door shut, leaning against it as my legs threatened to give way. Laura and David stood frozen, shock etched on their young faces. Mom? Laura's voice was small, childlike. What do we do now? I straightened up, squaring my shoulders. Now, we fight. Your father might think he can replace us with his new family, but he's about to learn how wrong he is. As I pulled my children close, a steely resolve settled over me. Adam had no idea what he'd unleashed. This war was just beginning, and I intended to win. I never thought I'd find myself skulking around the parking lot of a seedy motel, but desperate times call for desperate measures. My hands shook as I gripped my phone, ready to document whatever sordid scene awaited me. Mom, are you sure about this? Laura's voice crackled through my earpiece. Maybe we should just go home. I need to know, sweetheart, I whispered back. I need to see her face. Just then, a sleek black car pulled into the lot. My heart raced as Adam stepped out, looking furtively around before opening the passenger door. A leggy blonde emerged, her hand resting possessively on my husband's arm. I raised my phone, zooming in as they walked towards a room. The woman turned, and I got my first clear look at Kate's face. She was beautiful, yes, but there was a hardness to her features that made my skin crawl. Oh my God. Laura gasped in my ear. Mom, that's Mrs. Holloway, Ethan's mom from my high school. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only was Adam cheating, but he was doing it with someone from our community, someone our children knew. I was so stunned that I almost missed the third person exiting the car. A lanky teenage boy, his face a mirror image of his mother's, sauntered after Adam and Kate. Ethan, I breathed, pieces falling into place. Laura, honey, I think we've stumbled onto something bigger than we realized. Before Laura could respond, a hand clamped down on my shoulder. I whirled around, coming face to face with the security guard. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises, he said gruffly. I stammered, trying to hide my phone. The guard's eyes narrowed. Were you taking pictures? That's a violation of our guests' privacy. No, Mom? David's voice rang out across the parking lot. I turned to see my son striding towards us, his face a mask of fury. What the hell is going on? The commotion drew attention from the motel room. The door opened, and Adam stepped out, his eyes widening in shock as he took in the scene. Mia? He called, his voice a mixture of anger and disbelief. What are you doing here? I straightened my spine, meeting his gaze defiantly. I could ask you the same thing, Adam. Planning a little family getaway with your mistress and her son? Kate appeared in the doorway, her arms snaking around Adam's waist. Is this your ex? She purred. Honey, I thought you said she wouldn't be a problem. Ex? I sputtered. We're still very much married, you homewrecker. David lunged forward, his fists clenched. You bastard! He shouted at Adam. How could you do this to us? The security guard stepped between us, his hand on his radio. That's enough. All of you, clear out now, or I'm calling the police. Adam held up his hands placatingly. There's no need for that. We're leaving. He turned to Kate and Ethan. Get in the car, now. As they hurried away, Adam approached me, his voice low and menacing. This isn't over, Mia. You had no right to come here and make a scene. I laughed bitterly. No right? You destroyed our family, Adam. You don't get to dictate my rights anymore. He leaned in close, his breath hot on my ear. Watch yourself. What? You have no idea what you're dealing with. With that, he strode off, leaving me trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. David put his arm around me, guiding me towards our car. Mom, what did he say to you? I shook my head, unable to speak. As we drove away, Laura's voice came through the earpiece, small and frightened. Mom, are you okay? What happened? I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. I don't know, sweetheart, but I think we've just scratched the surface of whatever Adam's involved in. And I'm not stopping until I uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. As we pulled onto the highway, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives had just taken a dangerous turn. Whatever game Adam was playing, the stakes were higher than I could have imagined. And I was determined to win, for my children's sake and my own. I stared at the stack of papers on my kitchen table, each one a damning piece of evidence against Adam. Bank statements, phone records, even surveillance photos, they all painted a picture of a man living a double life. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, dialing the number I'd been avoiding for days. "Mia?" Elaine's voice was warm with concern. "How are you holding up?" I took a shaky breath. "I need your help, Elaine. It's worse than we thought." An hour later, Elaine sat across from me, her eyes wide as she pored over the documents. "Oh, Mia," she whispered, I don't even know what to say." "Say you'll help me nail this bastard to the wall," I replied, surprised by the venom in my own voice. Elaine reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Of course I will. But Mia, have you considered what this might do to Laura and David? They're already struggling." As if on cue, the front door slammed, and David stormed into the kitchen. His eyes were red-rimmed, his clothes disheveled. "Mom," he slurred, "I need to talk to you." My heart sank as I realized my son was drunk. "David, what happened? Where's Laura?" He stumbled, catching himself on the counter. "She's fine. She's with her boyfriend. But me, I'm not fine, Mom. I ran into Dad today." Elaine stood up, gathering the papers quickly. "I should go. Call me later, Mia." As soon as she left, I turned to David. "What do you mean you ran into Dad? Where?" David laughed bitterly. "At the jewelry store. He was buying a ring, Mom. A fucking engagement ring for that homewrecker." The room spun, and I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. An engagement ring? But we're not even divorced yet. "Yeah, well, I guess he doesn't care about that," David spat. "He saw me there, you know. Tried to explain, said he was going to tell us soon, as if that makes it okay." I pulled David into a hug, feeling his body shake with sobs. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." Just then my phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but the message made my blood run cold. "Back off, Mia. You have no idea what you're dealing with. For your kid's sake, let it go." I showed the text to David, watching his face contort with rage. "That's it," he growled. "I'm done playing nice. We need to destroy him, Mom." "David, no," I said firmly. "We're not stooping to his level. We're going to do this the right way." He pulled away from me, his eyes blazing. "The right way? Are you kidding me? After everything he's done?" Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. We both froze, staring at each other in confusion. I approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. My heart nearly stopped. It was Kate. I opened the door slowly, steeling myself. "What are you doing here?" Kate's perfect makeup couldn't hide the fear in her eyes. "Mia, please, I need your help. Adam, he's not who you think he is. He's not who I thought he was either." David appeared behind me, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, this should be good. What? Did Daddy dearest break your heart too?" Kate flinched. "It's not like that. Please, just hear me out. Adam's involved in something dangerous. I think he might hurt someone." My mind raced. Adam's threatening words at the motel echoing in my ears. I looked at David, saw the conflict on his face, then back at Kate. In that moment, I knew I had a choice to make. I could turn Kate away, continue my plan for revenge, and potentially put my family at risk. Or I could listen, possibly uncover the truth, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to protect everyone I loved. Taking a deep breath, I stepped aside. "Come in, Kate. Tell us everything." As she crossed the threshold, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives were about to change irrevocably. Whatever Adam was involved in, whatever secrets Kate was about to reveal, I knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back now. The living room felt suffocating as Kate's words hung in the air. My mind reeled, trying to process the bombshell she'd just dropped. "Money laundering?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "Adam's involved in money laundering?" Kate nodded, her eyes darting nervously between David and me. "It's worse than that, Mia. He's in deep with some dangerous people. I didn't know at first, I swear, but when I found out—" She trailed off, her hands shaking. David paced the room, his earlier drunkenness seemingly evaporated. "This is insane. Dad's a lot of things, but a criminal? I don't buy it. I wanted to agree with him, to dismiss Kate's claims as lies from a desperate woman. But deep down, a part of me knew it made sense. The unexplained late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden influx of cash. Why are you telling us this now? I asked Kate, my voice steadier than I felt. She took a deep breath. Because I'm scared, Mia. For myself, for Ethan, and for your family too. Adam's not the man I thought he was. He's become cold, calculating. When I confronted him about the illegal activities, he threatened me. Said if I breathed a word to anyone, he'd make sure Ethan and I disappeared. The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation settling over us like a heavy blanket. I looked at David, saw the conflict and fear in his eyes, and knew I had to be strong for both my children. We need to call Laura, I said, reaching for my phone. She needs to hear this too. As if on cue, the front door burst open, and Laura stumbled in, her face streaked with tears. "Mom," she cried. "Dad's here, he's outside, and he's furious." My heart raced as I rushed to the window. Sure enough, Adam's car was parked haphazardly in the driveway, and he was storming towards the house. "Kate, take David and Laura upstairs," I ordered, surprising myself with the authority in my voice. "Lock yourselves in the bedroom, and don't come out until I say it's safe." "Mom, no way," David protested. "I'm not leaving you alone with him." I cupped his face in my hands. "David, listen to me. Your father may be a lot of things, but he won't hurt me. I need you to protect your sister and Kate. Can you do that for me?" He nodded reluctantly, ushering the others upstairs just as Adam pounded on the door. I took a deep breath, steeling myself before opening it. Adam burst in, his face contorted with rage. "Where is she?" he snarled. "Where's Kate?" "She's not here, Adam," I lied smoothly. "What's going on? Why are you so worked up?" He grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. "Don't play dumb with me, Mia. I know she came here. What did she tell you?" I wrenched my arm free, anger overriding my fear. "She told us everything, Adam. The money laundering, the threats. How could you do this to our family?" Adam's face paled, then flushed with fury. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, Mia. This is bigger than you, bigger than all of us. If you know what's good for you and the kids, you'll forget everything Kate said and stay out of it." "Or what?" I challenged, my voice rising. "You'll make us disappear too?" For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I once loved in Adam's eyes, regret, fear, maybe even a hint of shame. But it vanished quickly, replaced by cold determination. "This is your last warning, Mia," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Stay out of my business, or I can't guarantee your safety. Any of you." As he turned to leave, I called out, "It's too late, Adam. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce." He froze, his hand on the doorknob. Without turning around, he said, "You have no idea what you've just done." The door slammed behind him and I sank to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me. Upstairs, I could hear muffled sobs and whispered conversations. In that moment, I knew our lives would never be the same. Adam had made his choice, and now I had to make mine. As I climbed the stairs to comfort my children and face an uncertain future, one thought burned in my mind. I would protect my family, no matter the cost. 6 months. It felt like a lifetime since Adam had walked out, leaving our family in shambles. I'd spent every waking moment rebuilding our lives, piece by painstaking piece. The divorce proceedings were underway, and I'd managed to secure a restraining order against Adam after his threats. Life was far from perfect, but we were surviving. Until today. The pounding on the front door jolted me awake. I stumbled downstairs, my heart racing as I peered through the peephole. Adam stood there, his face a mask of fury, with Kate and a sullen-looking Ethan behind him. "Open the damn door, Mia," Adam shouted. "We need to talk." I steeled myself, opening the door just enough to speak through the gap. "You're violating the restraining order, Adam. Leave now or I'm calling the police." He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Police? You think I'm afraid of the police? Open the door or I'll break it down." "Mom?" Laura's voice came from behind me, trembling with fear. "What's going on?" I turned to see both my children at the foot of the stairs, their faces pale with shock. Before I could respond, Adam shoved the door open, sending me stumbling backward. "This is our house now," he snarled, gesturing to Kate and Ethan. "Pack your bags, you're leaving." David stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Like hell we are. This is our home, Dad. You can't just—" Adam's hand shot out, grabbing David by the collar. I can do whatever I want, boy. I made this family, and I can break it just as easily. Let him go, I screamed, clawing at Adam's arm. He shoved me away, and I crashed into the side table, sending a vase shattering to the floor. Laura rushed to help me up, while Kate stood in the doorway, her face a mixture of triumph and unease. Ethan hung back, looking like he wanted to be anywhere but here. As I struggled to my feet, a wave of dizziness washed over me. The room spun, and I clutched at Laura for support. "Mom?" she cried, her voice sounding far away. "Mom, what's wrong?" I tried to focus, to push through the fog descending on my mind. I had to protect my children, had to stand up to Adam, but my body was betraying me, my legs giving way beneath me. "What's the matter, Mia?" Adam sneered. "Can't handle the pressure?" As I sank to the floor, I saw a flicker of concern cross his face. Good, he didn't know. None of them knew. "You want to know what's wrong, Adam?" I managed to gasp out. "I'm dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me 6 months to live. 3 months ago." The room fell silent, save for Laura's choked sob. Adam's face drained of color, his grip on David loosening. "You're lying," Kate whispered, but there was doubt in her voice. I laughed weakly. "Why would I lie about this? You want the house so badly, Adam? Fine. Take it, but know that every moment you spend here will be haunted by the memory of the family you destroyed, the wife you left to die alone." Adam staggered back as if I'd struck him. "Mia, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered?" I spat. "You made your choice, Adam. You chose your new family over us. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted." David knelt beside me, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, why didn't you tell us?" I reached up to cup his cheek. "I wanted to protect you, to give you time to heal without worrying about me. I'm so sorry, sweetheart." As my vision began to blur, I saw Adam move towards me, his face a mask of anguish and regret. But it was too late. The damage was done, and there was no going back. My last conscious thought before darkness claimed me was a silent prayer. Let my children find the strength to forgive, even if I couldn't. Let them build a life free from the bitterness that had consumed their father and me. And as the world faded away, I felt a strange sense of peace. Whatever happened next, I knew my fight was finally over. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room buzzed overhead as I slowly regained consciousness. The steady beep of monitors filled the air, a grim reminder of my fragile state. As my eyes adjusted, I saw Laura and David huddled together on a small couch, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. "Mom?" Laura's voice cracked as she noticed my stirring. "You're awake." David rushed to my bedside, grasping my hand. "We were so scared, Mom, the doctors said." I squeezed his hand weakly. "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner." Before they could respond, the door burst open. Adam strode in, his face a storm of emotions, anger, fear, and something that looked suspiciously like guilt. "What the hell were you thinking, Mia?" he demanded. "Keeping your condition a secret? Do you have any idea what you've put the kids through?" I laughed bitterly, wincing at the pain it caused. "Oh, that's rich coming from you, Adam. Suddenly you care about what the kids are going through?" Laura stepped between us. "Stop it, both of you. This isn't helping anyone." Just then, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Kate's voice rang out, shrill and panicked. "You can't do this. We haven't done anything wrong." 2 police officers entered the room, their faces grim. "Adam Thompson," one of them asked, "we need you to come with us." Adam's face drained of color. "What's going on?" The officer produced a warrant. "We have evidence linking you to a major money laundering operation. You're under arrest." The room exploded into chaos. David lunged at Adam, shouting accusations. Laura tried to hold him back, tears streaming down her face. And through it all, I lay there, feeling as though I was watching a movie of someone else's life falling apart. As the officers handcuffed Adam, Kate burst into the room, Ethan trailing behind her. "This is all your fault," she screamed at me. "You couldn't just let us be happy, could you?" I found strength I didn't know I had, pushing myself up in the bed. "Happy? You call destroying a family happy? You're both delusional." Adam turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Mia, please. You have to tell them this is a mistake. I did it for us, for our family." The irony of his words hit me like a physical blow. "Our family? You gave up the right to call us that when you walked out on us, Adam." As the officers led Adam away, Kate collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Ethan stood awkwardly by the door, just looking lost and confused. In that moment, watching the destruction of not one but two families, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I turned to Laura and David, who stood shell-shocked by my bedside. "Listen to me," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "What your father did was wrong, but don't let his mistakes define you. You are both so much stronger than this." David's face crumpled. "But Mom, what about you? We can't lose you too." I reached out to pulling both my children close. "I'm still here, and I'm going to fight this with everything I have. But I need you to promise me something." "Anything," Laura whispered. "Promise me you'll live your lives fully without bitterness or regret. Don't let what happened here poison your hearts." As they nodded, tears streaming down their faces, I felt a weight lift from my chest. Whatever time I had left, I would spend it healing the wounds that had been inflicted on my family. I looked over at Kate and Ethan, still reeling from the shock of Adam's arrest. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of compassion. "You two should go home," I said softly. "There's nothing left for you here." As they left, I settled back against my pillows, exhausted but oddly at peace. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with legal battles, medical treatments, and emotional healing, but for the first time in months I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. Our story wasn't over yet. And I intended to make every moment count. The courtroom fell silent as I took my seat at the witness stand. My eyes swept across the room, taking in the faces that had become so familiar over the past year. Laura and David, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Elaine, my rock through this entire ordeal. And finally, Adam, looking pale and defeated in his prison jumpsuit. As I raised my right hand to be sworn in, I caught a glimpse of Kate and Ethan slipping into the back row. Their presence was a stark reminder of how far we'd all come, and how much had changed. "Mrs. Thompson," the prosecutor began, "can you please tell the court about the events leading up to your husband's arrest?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "It all started with a family dinner," I said, my voice steady despite the emotions roiling inside me. That was the night I realized the man I had loved for over 2 decades was no longer the person I thought he was. As I recounted the painful details of Adam's betrayal, his coldness towards our children, and the shocking revelation of his criminal activities, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For so long I had carried the burden of his secrets, but now finally the truth was coming to light. When I described the confrontation at our home, the day Adam and Kate had tried to force us out, I saw Adam flinch. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the man I had once loved, remorseful, ashamed, and utterly broken. "And how has this affected your family, Mrs. Thompson?" the prosecutor asked. I glanced at Laura and David, my heart swelling with pride. "It's been incredibly difficult," I admitted, "but it's also shown us how strong we are, both individually and as a family. We've learned to lean on each other, to find joy in the small moments, and to appreciate the time we have together." As I stepped down from the witness stand, I felt a sense of closure washing over me. The divorce papers had been filed months ago, but this, testifying against Adam, laying bare the truth of our shattered marriage, felt like the true end of that chapter of my life. The jury's deliberation was mercifully short. As the foreman read out the guilty verdict on all counts, I heard Kate's muffled sob from the back of the courtroom. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy for her and Ethan. They too were victims of Adam's deception. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by my children and Elaine, I felt lighter than I had in years. The cancer treatments had taken their toll, but standing there in the warm sunshine, I was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. "Mom," Laura said, squeezing my hand, "what happens now?" I smiled, pulling both her and David close. "Now we live, we heal, we make every moment count." As we walked away from the courthouse, I caught sight of my reflection in a store window. The woman staring back at me was older, wiser, and infinitely stronger than the one who had sat down to that fateful family dinner so long ago. In the months that followed, life took on a new rhythm. There were good days and bad, moments of joy interspersed with the harsh realities of my illness. But through it all, I found a peace I had never known before. I threw myself into creating lasting memories with Laura and David, savoring every laugh, every shared meal, every quiet moment of companionship. I rekindled old friendships and forged new ones, surrounding myself with people who lifted me up and reminded me of the beauty in life. And on quiet evenings, as I sat on my porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the fear, it had all led me to this moment of profound gratitude and contentment. I thought of Adam serving his sentence and hoped he would find a way to make amends with our children someday. I thought of Kate and Ethan, hoping they had found a path forward as well. But mostly I thought of the future, uncertain as it was, and felt a sense of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. Whatever time I had left, I was determined to live it fully, with an open heart and a spirit unbowed by the trials I had faced. As the first stars appeared in the twilight sky, I smiled to myself. This wasn't the happily ever after I had once dreamed of, but it was something far more precious. A life lived authentically, with courage and love, in spite of everything. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered.
I never meant to snoop through my husband's things. But when the perfumed envelope fell from his jacket pocket as I was doing laundry, something in my gut told me this wasn't just another business card. My name is June, and until that moment, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Virgil and I had been together for 6 years, building what I believed was an unshakable foundation of trust and mutual respect. But there I stood in our laundry room, holding a pale pink envelope that smelled like jasmine and regret. "Honey, have you seen my gray jacket?" Virgil called from upstairs. "I need it for the meeting tomorrow." My hands trembled as I stuffed the envelope into my pocket. "Just putting it in the wash now," I replied, proud of how steady my voice sounded. Later that night, after Virgil had fallen asleep, I sat in our ensuite bathroom, perched on the edge of the tub with the letter in my hands. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, nothing like the chicken scratch from his business associates. "Dear V," it began. "I know it's been years, but I can't stop thinking about what you said at the charity gala last month. About regretting your choices. About us." My stomach churned. Last month's gala? The one where Virgil had claimed he'd spent the entire evening networking with potential investors? The letter continued, each word feeling like a needle under my skin. "Your mother always said we were perfect together. Maybe she was right. Maybe it's not too late." A soft knock at the bathroom door made me jump. "June? Everything okay in there?" Virgil's voice was thick with sleep. I quickly folded the letter and tucked it into my robe pocket. "Just feeling a bit queasy," I lied. "Must have been the takeout. Do you need anything?" The concern in his voice made this all worse somehow. How could he sound so caring while harboring such secrets? "No, I'm fine." "Go back to sleep." As I heard his footsteps retreat and the bed creak, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different somehow, harder, more suspicious. In that moment, I realized our marriage wasn't what needed fixing, it was beyond repair. What I needed was a plan. The next morning, over coffee, Virgil kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. "Mother's coming for dinner tonight," he reminded me. "She's been asking about grandchildren again." I forced a smile, thinking about his mother, Eudora, and her constant pressure about babies. Now her words in the letter made sense. Perfect together, she'd always preferred his ex. The realization hit me like a slap. "Actually," I said, stirring my coffee slowly, "I'm not feeling well enough for company. Maybe we should reschedule." Virgil's face darkened slightly. "Mother's already on her way. She's been planning this dinner all week." "Of course she has," I muttered. "What's that supposed to mean?" I met his eyes across the kitchen island. "Nothing. I just find it interesting how your mother always gets what she wants." He set his coffee cup down harder than necessary. "June, what's going on with you?" "You tell me, V," I said, emphasizing his nickname from the letter. "Anything you want to share about last month's gala?" Color drained from his face, but before he could respond, my phone buzzed.
A text from my sister Mari. Emergency at work. Need you ASAP. I grabbed my purse, grateful for the escape. I have to go. Tell your mother I'm sorry about dinner. As I walked to my car, I could feel Virgil watching from the window. 6 years of marriage, and it took one letter to make me question everything. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was knowing this was just the beginning. Mari's emergency turned out to be exactly what I needed, an excuse to avoid the inevitable confrontation with Virgil and his mother. My sister's coffee shop was quiet when I arrived, just a few regulars scattered among the mismatched furniture. You look like hell, Mari said, sliding a steaming mug across the counter. Spale. I pulled the letter from my purse, now wrinkled from my constant handling. Mari read it silently, her expression darkening with each line. That lying piece of... It gets worse, I cut her off. Remember that charity gala last month? The one where Virgil was supposedly networking all night? The one where Eudora kept parading that skinny blonde around? Mari's eyes widened. Wait, was that his ex? Probably. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, trying to stop them from shaking. And apparently, Mother Dearest still thinks they're perfect for each other. The bell above the door chimed. Speaking of the devil, Eudora Ashford swept in like she owned the place, her designer handbag swinging from her arm. Mari muttered something under her breath and disappeared into the back room. Juniper, darling, Eudora's voice dripped with false sweetness. I thought you were ill? Just needed some fresh air. I straightened my spine, meeting her calculating gaze. And my sister's coffee. She settled onto the stool next to me, uninvited. Well, since we're both here, we might as well discuss the elephant in the room. The charity gala? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Something flickered across her face. Surprise? Concern? But it was gone in an instant. I meant children, dear. Virgil isn't getting any younger, and the Ashford name needs to be carried on. Maybe you should talk to the blonde from the gala about that. I immediately regretted the comment, but Eudora's perfectly composed mask cracked slightly. Catherine was always more amenable to family obligations. She examined her manicured nails. Such a shame things didn't work out between them. But then, timing is everything, isn't it? The implications of her words hit me like a physical blow. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Virgil. Where are you? We need to talk. Trouble in paradise? Eudora's smile didn't reach her eyes. Nothing I can't handle. I stood up, gathering my things. Give my apologies to Virgil for dinner. I'm sure Catherine would be happy to take my place. Mari emerged from the back just as I reached the door. June, wait. But I was already outside, gulping in the cool air. My phone buzzed again. Please come home. I can explain everything. I drove aimlessly for hours, eventually ending up at the park where Virgil had proposed. The memory felt tainted now, like everything else. As I sat on our favorite bench, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Hi June, it's Catherine. We should talk. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to pretend this wasn't happening. But a stronger part, the part that had been silently gathering evidence and connecting dots, knew this conversation was inevitable. Starbucks on 5th. 30 minutes, I replied. When I walked into the coffee shop, Catherine was already there. She looked exactly like she had at the gala, perfectly polished, exactly Eudora's type of daughter-in-law. But up close, I could see the cracks in her facade, too. I'm sorry about the letter, she said as I sat down. I never meant for you to find it. But you meant to write it? She fidgeted with her coffee cup. Eudora said, she said things weren't working out between you and Virgil. She said he was miserable. Course she did. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. And you believed her? I believed what I wanted to believe. Catherine met my eyes. But after the gala, after seeing you two together, I realized Eudora wasn't telling the whole truth. She never does. I stood up, suddenly clear about what I needed to do. Thank you for being honest. That's more than I can say for my husband. As I drove home, I thought about timing, how Eudora had mentioned it, how it really was everything. And right now, it was time to make some changes. Big ones. When I finally returned home that evening, our house was dark except for Virgil's study. Through the window, I could see him hunched over his desk, phone pressed to his ear. I used my key as quietly as possible, but he must have heard me because the conversation stopped abruptly. I have to go, he said in a hushed tone. No, not now. I'll call you later. I stood in the doorway of his study, watching him scramble to close browser tabs. Don't stop on my account, I said. I'm sure Catherine's waiting for your call. His face went through a series of emotions, surprise, guilt, anger, before settling on something like resignation. It's not what you think. Really? Because I just had an interesting chat with her. I moved closer to his desk, noticing how he subtly angled his computer screen away from me. She told me about Eudora's meddling. What I can't figure out is why you went along with it. June, please, he reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Don't. My voice cracked slightly. Just don't. That's when I noticed the browser tab he'd missed. An email draft to Catherine with an attachment, divorce papers. My stomach lurched. Were you even going to tell me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Or was I supposed to find out from your mother like everything else? Virgil ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. I was trying to protect you. Protect me. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet room. By secretly planning our divorce with your ex? The company's failing, June. I'm drowning in debt. His voice rose with each word. Mother offered to help, but only if. Only if you left me for Catherine. Pieces finally clicked into place. Because she comes from money and I'm just a financial analyst from the wrong side of town. That's not fair. Fair. I moved to his desk, turning his computer screen toward me. The email draft was still open, dated 3 weeks ago. You've been planning this for weeks, while I've been trying to figure out what I did wrong. His phone buzzed again, Eudora's name flashing on the screen. Of course. Answer it, I said, already heading for the door. Tell your mother her plan worked. The common girl is finally out of the picture. June, wait. He grabbed my arm. Where are you going? I jerked away from him. To pack. And then I'm calling my lawyer. I'm sure he'll be very interested in these emails, especially the parts about hiding assets before filing for divorce. Color drained from his face. You wouldn't. The funny thing about being a financial analyst, Virgil? I smiled, though it felt more like baring my teeth. I notice when money moves in strange ways. Like large transfers to offshore accounts right after your mother's visits. His phone buzzed again, more insistent this time. As he glanced at it, I saw another notification pop up. A message from Catherine about meeting tomorrow to finalize everything. You know what hurts the most? I asked, pausing at the door. I actually believed you loved me more than your mother's money. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard him calling after me, his voice desperate. What about children? Mother says. Your mother can go to hell. I turned to face him one last time. And so can you. In our bedroom, I grabbed my emergency bag, the one I'd packed last week when I first found the letter. As I headed for the front door, Virgil's phone rang again. This time, he answered. Mother, now isn't a good time. No, I haven't told her everything yet. Yes, I know the papers need to be filed by Friday. I closed the door on his conversation, cutting off whatever scheme Eudora was cooking up next. In my car, I found a text from Mari. Guest room's ready whenever you need it. My hands shook as I started the engine, but my mind was clear. They wanted to play games with my life? Fine. But they were about to learn that this common girl knew how to play too. And I played to win. Mari's guest room became my war room. Spread across the bed were financial statements, bank records, and emails I'd secretly forwarded from Virgil's computer before leaving. 3 days had passed, and my phone was a battlefield of missed calls and manipulative texts from both Virgil and Eudora. "You need to see this," Mari said, bursting into the room with her laptop. She turned it toward me, showing a local business news website. The headline made my coffee go cold. Ashford Industries announces merger with Sterling Corporation. Sterling Corporation, Catherine's family business. That son of I started, but my phone buzzed with an unknown number. June. A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "This is Felicity. I worked in accounting at Ashford Industries until last month." I put her on speaker. "Go on. I've been trying to reach you since I heard about the divorce plans." She lowered her voice. "There are things you need to know about the company's finances. Things that aren't in the official records." "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. Can we meet?" An hour later, I sat across from Felicity in a quiet corner of a diner outside town. She slid a USB drive across the table. "I kept copies of everything," she said, glancing nervously at the door. "The real books, the offshore accounts, the backdated contracts. Eudora's been cooking the books for years, but this merger..." She shook her head. "It's not just about getting you out of the picture. They're trying to hide something bigger." "Why are you helping me?" "Because they did the same thing to me." Her smile was bitter. "I was engaged to Virgil's brother before he died. Eudora decided I wasn't good enough either. Made sure I lost my job when I started asking questions about the accounts." My phone lit up with another text from Virgil. "Please come home. We can work this out. I miss you." "Don't fall for it," Felicity warned. "The merger announcement goes public tomorrow." Once that happens, the diner's door chimed. Eudora walked in, Catherine trailing behind her like a designer-clad shadow. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Eudora's voice could have frozen hell. "Juniper, darling, conspiring with disgraced employees now?" Felicity grabbed her purse. "Remember what I said," she whispered, slipping past them. "Whatever she told you is lies," Catherine said quickly. "She's just bitter about being pushed out like I was." I stood up, clutching the USB drive. "Or about the creative accounting you're using to hide the company's real financial state?" Something flickered in Catherine's eyes. Fear? "Eudora, you said she didn't know." "Quiet," Eudora snapped. She turned to me, her smile razor-sharp. "Let's be reasonable, Juniper. What would it take for you to disappear quietly? Name your price." I thought about the divorce papers, the secret meetings, the years of subtle manipulation. "You really don't get it, do you? This was never about money." "Everything is about money, dear." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "Don't be foolish. You can't win against us. Watch me." I headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Eudora? Tell Virgil I'll see him in court. I'm sure the SEC will be very interested in those offshore accounts." Back in Mari's guest room, I plugged in the USB drive. File after file revealed the truth. The company wasn't just failing, it was a house of cards built on fraud. And the merger wasn't a power play, it was a desperate attempt to hide the evidence. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my lawyer. "June, we need to talk. Virgil's filing for an emergency hearing tomorrow. Says he has evidence you're mentally unstable." I looked at the files on my screen, then at the latest text from Virgil. "Last chance, June. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." They wanted to play dirty? Fine. I started forwarding files to my lawyer. It was time to show them exactly what happened when you cornered a mentally unstable financial analyst with nothing left to lose. Courthouse hallway felt like a gladiator arena. I stood with my lawyer on one side while Virgil, Catherine, and Eudora huddled with their legal team on the other. The emergency hearing was about to begin, but something felt off. Virgil kept checking his phone, looking increasingly agitated. "They're stalling," my lawyer whispered. "The judge should have called us in 20 minutes ago." That's when I saw Felicity rushing toward us, clutching a manila envelope. "Stop the hearing." She was breathless, her usually perfect hair disheveled. "You need to see this first." Eudora moved to intercept her, but Felicity dodged past. "It's about Sawyer," she said, looking directly at me. The world tilted sideways. "What about Sawyer?" "The custody papers they're filing." Felicity glanced at Virgil, who had gone pale. "They're not just claiming you're unstable. They're claiming Sawyer isn't." "Isn't what?" But I already knew. The way Eudora had always treated my child differently, the whispered conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, the constant pressure about having real Ashford heirs. Virgil stepped forward. "June, let me explain." "Explain what?" I ripped open the envelope. Inside were DNA test results dated 3 years ago. "You knew? All this time you knew?" "Mother insisted on the test," he said quietly. "After Sawyer's birth, she noticed." "Noticed what?" My voice echoed through the hallway. "That my child wasn't good enough for the precious Ashford bloodline?" "I was trying to protect you both," Eudora cut in. "If this got out." "If what got out?" I advanced on her. "That your perfect son wasn't Sawyer's biological father? That all your grand plans for an Ashford heir were based on a lie?" Catherine grabbed Virgil's arm. "You told me the child was from a previous relationship." "He told you what?" Pieces clicked into place. The merger, the rushed divorce, the custody filing. "This was never about the company, was it? This was about erasing us completely." "June," Virgil pleaded, "we can work something out. A generous settlement." "In exchange for what?" "My child." My silence. I laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. "You know what's funny? I actually felt guilty about exposing your financial fraud. But this," I pulled out my phone, displaying the screen. "This just made it easy." "What did you do?" Eudora's voice sharpened. "Check your phones," I said. "The SEC should be receiving some very interesting documents right about now, along with these DNA results and evidence of your attempt to use them for extortion." Color drained from their faces as notifications started pinging across their devices. Virgil lunged for my phone, but Mari, who had been quietly filming everything, stepped between us. "Touch her," she said calmly, "and assault charges will be the least of your worries." Courthouse doors burst open as federal agents streamed in. In the chaos that followed, I watched Eudora's carefully constructed world crumble. Virgil was led away in handcuffs, Catherine collapsed in tears, and Eudora, for the first time in her life, looked genuinely afraid. "This isn't over," she hissed as agents approached her. "That child is mine," I cut her off. "And you'll never come near us again." Later that night, I watched Sawyer sleeping peacefully, unaware of how their world had changed. Mari brought me tea, settling beside me on the couch. "You okay?" she asked. I thought about the day's events, about the years of manipulation and lies. "No," I admitted. "But I will be." My phone buzzed with a text from Felicity. "There's more you need to know. About Virgil's brother, about what really happened to him. When you're ready." I stared at the message, feeling the weight of more secrets, more lies. But for now, watching my child sleep, I had only one priority: protecting what was mine. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight, in this quiet moment, we were free. And that was enough. 6 months after the courthouse showdown, I thought we were finally safe. Virgil was awaiting trial for financial fraud. Eudora had retreated to her summer home in shame. And Sawyer was thriving in our new apartment across town. But peace, I learned, was just another illusion. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, just a thick manila envelope that made my stomach drop. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Sawyer at school. Sawyer at the park. Sawyer and me shopping. All taken without our knowledge. My phone rang. Felicity. They're moving against you, she said without preamble. Eudora's hired private investigators. They're building a case. What case? Virgil's DNA test already proved. Not about paternity. About Sawyer's real father. Her voice dropped. They found him June. The room spun. That weekend in Vegas 5 years ago before I'd even met Virgil. I'd never gotten his name, never thought I'd need it. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible with Eudora's resources. Felicity paused. There's more. Virgil's brother. His death wasn't an accident. I found evidence. A crash from Sawyer's room cut her off. I dropped the phone, running toward the sound. The window was open, curtains billowing in the wind. Sawyer's bed was empty. Sawyer? My voice echoed through the apartment. Baby, where are you? Something crinkled under my foot, a note written in Eudora's elegant script. We need to talk. Alone. My phone buzzed with an address and a warning. Come alone or you'll never see them again. Mari found me throwing up in the bathroom 20 minutes later. The police. Will take too long. I wiped my mouth, grabbing my keys. She'll disappear with Sawyer the moment she sees cops. Then I'm coming with you. No. I showed her the photos. She's been watching us for months. She'll know. The address led to an abandoned warehouse by the docks. Eudora stood in the entrance, looking more haunted than elegant now. Where's my child? Safe, she said. With their real family. I am their real family. Are you? She pulled out more photos, older ones. Me in Vegas. The man I'd met that weekend. His name is James Mitchell. Successful attorney, married, 2 kids. Imagine the scandal when this hits the press. My hand shook. What do you want? Leave town. Tonight. Sign over custody to the Ashfords and these stay buried. She held up the photos. Fight us, and not only will James's family learn everything, but every court in the country will know about your indiscretion. You'd destroy an innocent family just to win? To protect my family? Her smile was cold. I've done worse. A child's cry echoed from inside the warehouse, Sawyer. I moved toward the sound, but Eudora blocked my path. Choose carefully, Juniper. Your child can have everything, the Ashford name, wealth, status. Or they can have nothing, watching their mother's reputation burn. My phone buzzed. A message from Felicity. Whatever she's offering, don't take it. I found proof about Marcus's death. She'll never let you go. Marcus, Virgil's brother. The one who died mysteriously after questioning company finances. The one who'd been engaged to Felicity. Tick-tock, Eudora said. What's it going to be? Another cry from inside. My child was scared, alone, needed me. But if I gave in now, we'd never be free. Eudora would always have this power over us. Well, she held out custody papers, already drawn up. I thought about Vegas, about secrets and shame, about a woman who'd destroy anything for control. About Marcus, who'd probably stood exactly where I was, facing impossible choices. No, I said quietly. Excuse me. I met her eyes, finding strength in my fury. I said no. You want a war, Eudora? Let's have one. But remember, you taught me how to play dirty. Her face contorted with rage as I pulled out my phone, displaying the recording app. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about winning. It's about making sure everyone loses together. The warehouse erupted into chaos the moment I pressed send on the recording. Eudora's confession about Marcus, along with the evidence Felicity had gathered, was now in the hands of every major news outlet and law enforcement agency in the state. What have you done? Eudora's composure cracked like fine china. Exactly what you taught me. I stepped closer. Never start a war you can't win. A door slammed somewhere inside the warehouse. Footsteps echoed, then Virgil emerged from the shadows, holding Sawyer's hand. My child's eyes lit up at the sight of me, but Virgil's grip tightened. "Let them go," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "Or what?" Virgil's laugh was hollow. "You'll destroy what's left of us?" "Too late." "Us." I gestured at the warehouse, the photos, the mess we'd become. "There is no us. There never was. Just your mother's puppet show." "Virgil," Eudora snapped, "take the child, Anne." "No." He released Sawyer's hand. "I'm done taking orders." Sawyer ran to me, wrapping small arms around my legs. I kept my eyes on Virgil, watching him pull out his phone and scroll through messages. "The stories everywhere," he said quietly. "Marcus's death, the company fraud, everything." He looked at his mother. "Did you really kill him?" "I protected this family." Eudora's voice rose hysterically. "Everything I did was for control." Felicity's voice cut through the darkness. She stepped out from behind a stack of crates, holding a gun. "Like when you had Marcus's brakes tampered with after he threatened to expose the company's secrets." Eudora's face went ash-white. "You have no proof." "Actually, I pulled out my phone, we do. The mechanic confessed this morning. Turns out your money can't buy everyone's silence." "You planned this," Eudora whispered. "All of it. I learned from the best." I picked up Sawyer, holding them close. "But unlike you, I'm not doing this for power. I'm doing it for love." Sirens wailed in the distance. Eudora lunged for her purse. For what, we never found out. Felicity's warning shot hit the ground near her feet. "Don't," Felicity said. "Marcus deserves justice." Virgil stepped between them, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "It's over, Mother. We lost." "No," Eudora's eyes darted wildly. "I can fix this." "I can." "Fix what?" I asked. "Your son's death? The lives you've ruined? The grandchild you tried to steal?" Police cars screeched to a halt outside. Mari burst in with officers close behind. "June!" She rushed to us, checking Sawyer for injuries. "Are you okay?" I watched as officers handcuffed Eudora, her perfectly manicured world crumbling around her. Virgil stood apart, looking lost. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "For everything. I should have been stronger." "Yes," I agreed. "You should have." As they led Eudora away, she turned to me one last time. "You think this is victory? You've destroyed everything." "No," I shifted Sawyer in my arms. "I've protected what matters. The rest was already destroyed by you." Later, as reporters swarmed outside and detectives took statements, Felicity approached me. "What now?" she asked. I looked at Sawyer, sleeping peacefully in Mari's car. Virgil, giving his statement to police. At the empire of lies Eudora had built, now exposed to the light. Now? I smiled slightly. Now we rebuild. But this time on truth. The morning papers would call it the scandal of the decade. But for me, it was simpler than that. It was the day I stopped being afraid of shadows and started facing the light. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemies. It's in refusing to become them. 1 year later, I sat in the visitor's room of the state prison, watching Eudora through the scratched plexiglass. She looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by prison orange, her perfect makeup absent. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice lacking its usual command. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I." I placed Felicity's latest letter on the counter between us. "But this convinced me." Eudora's eyes flickered to the paper. "She told you about Marcus's daughter? The one you forced her to give up for adoption after his death?" I kept my voice neutral. "Yes. I thought I was protecting our legacy." She touched the glass separating us. "Instead, I destroyed it. Outside, Mari waited with Sawyer, who was drawing pictures for their new baby sister, Felicity's daughter born 3 months ago. After everything, she'd chosen to name her Marcus. Virgil asks about you, I said, in his letters from rehab. And do you answer? Sometimes. I studied her face, searching for the formidable woman who'd once terrified me. He's doing better, learning to be his own person. And you. For the first time, her voice held genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Are you happy? Question caught me off guard. Through all our battles, she'd never asked about my happiness. I'm at peace, I answered honestly. Sawyer's thriving. Mari's coffee shop is expanding. And Felicity. I smiled slightly. She's become family in ways you never allowed. The irony isn't lost on me. Eudora's laugh was hollow. I spent years orchestrating the perfect family, only to watch a real one grow from the ashes of my mistakes. A guard signaled 5 minutes remaining. I pulled out one last item, a photo of Sawyer and baby Marcus together. They should know their history, I said, sliding it through the slot. All of it. The good and the bad. Tears, real ones, filled Eudora's eyes. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, I agreed. But they deserve the chance to decide that for themselves someday. As I stood to leave, she pressed her hand against the glass one last time. June? The letter you found that day, the one that started everything, I planted it. I paused. Why? Because I saw myself in you. The strength I'd lost long ago. She met my eyes. I thought breaking you would prove I was still in control. Instead, you showed me what real strength looks like. Side, Sawyer ran to me, waving their drawing. Look, Mommy. It's all of us. Picture showed our strange, beautiful family. Mari and her new girlfriend, Felicity and baby Marcus, even Virgil in his rehab center's garden. And there, in the corner, was a small figure in orange, Grandma Eudora, drawn with the simple forgiveness only children possess. It's perfect, I said, holding them close. Later that night, as I watched both children sleep, Felicity joined me in the nursery. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Not taking revenge when you had the chance? I thought about Eudora's confession, about the satisfaction I could have taken in destroying her completely, about the cycle of pain that would have continued. The best revenge, I said, was breaking the pattern, building something beautiful from something broken. And Virgil, he's writing his own story now. I touched baby Marcus's tiny hand. Just like we all are. My phone buzzed, a text from Mari. Found more of Marcus's old files. You need to see these. Some secrets, it seemed, were still waiting to be uncovered. But this time, I wasn't afraid of the truth. Whatever came next, we would face it together, this unlikely family forged in the aftermath of destruction. 'Cause sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the war, but in choosing which battles are worth fighting. And sometimes the strongest families aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we build from the pieces of what was broken. That's the thing about revenge, it shows you who you really are. Not in how you destroy others, but in what you choose to build instead.